That's fine. All right, so what do you got for us today there, Sienna?
Okay, so you believe Jesus and Paul never existed?
Correct.
Okay. Why?
Why? Because their stories, even the natural ones, do not line up with what we know about the first century. In order to determine whether or not something is historical, it's not how many times it lines up with history, but how many times it doesn't line up with history. Otherwise, we would also pick like Harry Potter or the Amazing Spider-Man comics to be real because they line up with like London or New York history.
But you know that Spider-Man is a animated cartoon and Harry Potter is a boy dressed up as something he's not. Very
Cool.
different.
So Harry Potter, just like Jesus, is a young boy who grows up, chosen before he's even born to be the special one, and he ends up doing magic with his friends when he grows up. So yeah, how did you determine that Jesus was actually real and not just another Harry Potter like character?
Well, I don't know because obviously I wasn't alive when he was alive. But from obviously Harry Potter's claiming to be not real, it's to be
Where in
fiction,
Harry Potter
and
does it say that it's not real?
you can just look at it and just know it's not real
Yeah, the same thing
because
with
acting.
Jesus. Yeah, that's how that works. Also, I'm not talking about the movies. I'm talking about the books. That's why I said the Amazing Spider-Man, like the comics. So yeah. Anyways, um, you are aware that those were books and comics first, right? Before they were on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Obviously,
Okay.
when I talk about Jesus, I'm not talking about like Mel Gibson's version of Jesus on
Okay,
Passion
can
of
I
the
say something?
Christ.
People have dreams and visions, right, about Jesus. You don't have dreams and visions. Well, you have dreams about Harry Potter, of course you can, but you don't have a vision about Harry Potter.
Plenty of people do.
Okay.
And
Well,
also, that doesn't have anything to do with
Harry
whether or
Potter
not
has
Jesus
nothing to
existed
do.
2,000 years ago. Yeah. So,
Okay.
do you have any evidence for
Harry Potter
Jesus
doesn't do
2,000
anything
years
for.
ago, or would you like for me to move on to somebody else who's probably read more books? What would you like?
Okay. Harry Potter
Sweet.
doesn't
So, okay,
do
give me
anything for
evidence.
us. No,
Okay.
no, let me speak. No, let me speak. Let me speak.
No, you've been muted. I will send you an invite to unmute in just a second. Give me evidence for Jesus or Paul 2,000 years ago. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Harry Potter doesn't do anything for.
Sweet. All right. Next person up. Boo Bear, I guess. Is it Boo Bear? Seems like an interesting name. Boo Bear. Hopefully, Boo Bear connects there. Hopefully. Harry Potter got married. Yeah, I didn't want to pronounce it that way, but it's all one word. It looks like boo and then bear. It's either Boo Bear or Boo Beer. I don't know which one to choose. Alrighty. Well, I don't even know if they're connecting, to be honest. They may not even connect. Both. Boo Beer doesn't make any sense. What happened to the live stream ending yesterday? Good point. There were some super chats that I didn't get to that I'm going to get to right now because I promised that I would get to them. Those super chats, let me see here. All right. They included $5 from Zachary Zoliner, or Zollner, Zachary Zollner. $5, thank you very much. Said the Library of Alexandria doesn't have physical evidence, much like Jesus, but we knew the library existed. Why not Jesus? Because of contemporary evidence that talks about it. Also, the actual place that it was in, like the university that is in, we do have evidence of the university that the library was connected to. But regardless, we do have people like contemporaries talking about it. So that's the point. We don't have any contemporaries of Jesus. And then $4.99 from the prototype 1619 that said this is Kobe's 81 point game in the internet beatdown form. Yeah, because they're at the end of last night's stream. It was late last night, and I just decided to just unload on this particular guy, just give him all of the evidence, and not all of it, but like a good amount of reasons as to why each and everything that he kept bringing up was just not good evidence. Every once in a while, he would sit silent for like a good like 20 to 30 seconds, and so I think that was like the gears turning, and he was like, actually, this guy's making some good points. I don't really have any way to actually back up what these people have told me, and I'm just kind of regurgitating. So, yeah, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. But anyways, Let's see. By the way, if you're over there on TikTok, or sorry, if you're over there on YouTube, you can definitely request up. If you request up on TikTok, or in order to request up on TikTok, you got to click the link that's in the chat, or you can click the link that is on the YouTube profile, or you can send me a super chat. If you send a super chat, I will read it, I promise, and I will respond to it live on air. What is up? Is that
Yeah, I'm
50,006?
from Somalia. Look. I'm from Somalia. Alhamdulillah, we only fear Allah alone, the only true God. I just want to say to you, how can you disrespect my prophet like this? Jesus,
Which
peace be
prophet?
upon him, he lived 1000%. He lived. I know this.
Okay, cool.
In Mark,
How did you
we
determine that he lived?
know him good. He lived 1000%. He lived
Sweet. How do you know this?
because people in history they wrote a lot of things about him. Why would
Like
they
who?
like in Bibles? Why would they wrote about him if he really lived? You know.
Why would they write about Zeus if he wasn't real?
No, but in Jesus, peace be upon him, they wrote about him in Bibles. These
So
Bibles
they
were
wrote
marked.
about Zeus in the Odyssey. Why do I care?
But still, he existed, brother. He
Sweet. So what's
1000%.
your evidence for it? You just keep pointing to books, and books talk about all kinds of things.
Evidence is he existed. Wallah, he existed.
Sweet. What evidence?
Historically,
Like
he
what?
existed.
You're not giving me anything. You're just saying books, but books talk about all kinds of things. Give me the evidence that
Yeah,
he
I
actually
know, but
existed.
yeah, that's true. But still, he existed.
Sweet. Why? How do you know?
Because in books.
Sweet. Yeah. In books.
Yeah.
Yeah. Books also talk about Harry Potter, dude. What's your evidence that he actually existed?
He existed, 1000%. He existed because we know him.
Okay, you keep saying this, but you're not saying any evidence. You just kind of keep repeating things because you kind of you bought into what your imam told you, and you didn't actually question it.
But this is disrespect to my prophet.
I don't give two shits about your prophet,
In
Jesus or Muhammad.
Quran, Allah said to me,
Did you? I can't even hear you.
I believe Jesus, peace be upon him, was prophet because in Quran, Allah said to me he was prophet.
Sweet. Well,
In Quran,
the Quran is bullshit,
and
so
Quran,
I don't know what to tell you. What do you want me to do with that?
Quran is a divine revelation straight
No, it's
from
not.
God.
Prove it.
Straight from God.
Prove it.
And people who
Prove it.
say Aisha.
I don't even know what he's really talking about. I guess Aisha, the 6-year-old that Muhammad married.
People who say Aisha, they don't have no knowledge.
Yeah, sweet. So give me the evidence that the Quran is actually from God, or give me the evidence that Jesus actually existed.
In 1870.
I don't even know what that guy's saying. He keeps going in and out. Is that me or is that
In
him?
1800s, 7-year-old girls married. In 1800s, all over the world, they can say Aisha. They who say Aisha, they don't have no knowledge.
All right, sweet. So you've been muted because you're just kind of talking nonsense and you're not even addressing what I'm talking about. Shut up, man, dude. All right, now listen. If you unmute one more time. Okay, sweet. Yeah, you're gone. I didn't really like talking to you anyway. I don't give two shits about Muhammad or Jesus. Why do I care? All right. Let's see. Gonna go ahead and unmute Brotherhood of Steel, who's been sitting there patiently waiting for a minute. Brotherhood of Steel, I sent you an invite to unmute. Brotherhood, you there?
Okay.
Hey, there you go. It's like really quiet, but what's up?
I respect your live and everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I can't hear you very well, man.
Hold on here. Can you hear me now?
I mean, I can hear you, but it's like really quiet.
Hold on here.
Oh, well, that almost sounds better there.
Now?
Yeah, it's a little better. Oh, what you got?
A little bit better?
Maybe a bit, but what you got?
Okay. Look at Venezuela.
All right, so do you have any evidence for Jesus or Paul?
The evidence points to everything.
Okay. So what is your evidence for Jesus or Paul?
That all the prophecies are actually fulfilling themselves.
That has nothing to do with whether or not they existed 2,000 years ago, man. Nothing at all.
Actually, it does.
Nope, not at all. What's your evidence
He
that they
did
actually
say.
said
He
what they
did
said?
say. He did say 2,000 years ago.
Cool. Well, I don't think he existed, so he didn't say anything. So show me that he existed, and then we'll talk about whether or not he said something.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Show you. Like, how do you want it showed?
Well, you believe that he existed 2,000 years ago. What was the evidence that convinced you?
He saved my life.
That doesn't have anything to do with 2,000 years ago. That would have something to do with your lifetime. I don't care if Jesus saved you, healed you, or jerked you off yesterday. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not he existed 2,000 years ago, does it?
So you're
looking for evidence of Jesus 2,000 years ago. Doesn't matter to me if you think he's real. Like today.
I mean,
I don't care if he's alive today. I don't even have any clue as to how that has any effect on what we're talking about.
Okay, you say where's the evidence about 2,000 years ago?
Yeah, because that's when the Bible says that he was around. How did you determine that was true?
Because he said everybody who will hate him for his
No, I don't
name.
think that he existed. You're gonna have to show. You're gonna have to prove to me that he existed before I accept you saying, "Oh, he said this." I don't care what you think a fictional character said. I don't care what Harry Potter said. I don't care what Spider-Man says. I don't care what fucking Clifford the Big Red Dog says. I don't care. I mean, show me that they're real, then we can talk about whether or not they said something.
Okay. You know what?
What? You have the floor. I'm trying to give you time to speak and give me evidence for Jesus 2,000 years ago, and you keep talking about like what the book says maybe, but like you're not telling me how you know that that's real.
I hate to break it to you. You're going to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, of evidence? Yeah, I'd like to. Let's go down that rabbit hole. You got anything for us, Brotherhood? I can't even hear you, man. What'd you do? Like just go put your clothes in the laundry machine?
Right?
What? What? Did anybody hear what he said? Is that a cat? Is that a fucking bird or some shit? Like what? All right, brother. What I'm gonna need you to do is go read some books or something like that, or I don't know, touch grass maybe. Mark John, what you got? I'm gonna send you an invite to unmute there. Thank you for patiently waiting. Mark John, you there? Mark John. Mark John? Going once, going twice. Mark John, I sent you an invite. You came up. You got to click the little microphone button at the bottom. Little microphone button at the bottom.
Mark!
You there, Mark? I don't know. I don't think Mark's there. Two.
What's up?
What's going on? What you got, man?
I just had like 2 questions and then I'll be
Aptly
out.
named.
Yeah. So when you say Jesus Paul never existed, you're talking about like the natural, right?
Mm-hmm. Even the natural
Okay.
Jesus and Paul is presented by the New Testament, and I mean, as well as the Book of Mormon and Quran, for that matter.
Okay, fair enough. And your like evidence, because you're making a claim, so like, what would your evidence be?
Would that be your second question, or is that still part of your
No,
first?
that's my first.
All right. Well, my evidence specifically would be like anachronisms and the pieces of the puzzle that come together later on from this syncretic religion. Also, the fact that there's contradictions in the text itself, even in the natural parts of the text, which would show that it's historically impossible or physically impossible for this person to have existed, presented by the New
Okay.
Testament at least.
Okay, fair enough. And then, my second question would be, I would say, like, what do you think the chances are that you're wrong about this?
That the natural Jesus presented by the New Testament didn't exist? Zero.
Yeah, 0?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's impossible to be born 10 years after you're born. So, yeah, no. The guy presented by the New Testament
No,
definitely didn't exist.
I understand like with the contradiction, but
Yeah.
like what are the like for example like Bart Ehrman, he believes they existed, right?
Mhm.
So like what are the chances that like his interpretation is right? Would
By
you
the
say?
way, over there on YouTube, if you are a member of the 35-second gang there on YouTube, you now have an emoji of Bart Ehrman. So go ahead and use that if you can. But anyways, yeah, what Bart Ehrman says relies a lot on church tradition. It relies a lot on church fathers and their reliability. So,
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I
Okay.
mean, I just don't grant them this high level of reliability just because. He also relies on like historians like Tacitus or Pliny or Josephus or Suetonius, these writings that have been either interpolated into, or there's what my co-author and I we call the synonym problem, where we end up with the term Christ being used or potentially used, and people just automatically assume that that's Jesus without any evidence. Because the word Christ it's a Greek term that means anointed.
Right, it means anointed one. Yeah,
It was used multiple times in the Old Testament, in like the Septuagint, to apply to high priest or even to Cyrus the Great. Alexander the Great is a Christ according to the book of Maccabees. So I mean, you know what I mean? That doesn't automatically mean that they're talking about Jesus. Even if you do have this Christianity, because we actually see roots of this religion or mystery cult called Christianity or Christianity going all the way back into the 1st century BCE. So potentially before Jesus was even born, this mystery cult was already around. And we don't actually get evidence of the mythology of Jesus or the Gospels or anything like that until the middle of the 2nd century.
Okay, cool. All right, those were my 2 questions.
Oh, okay. Well, did you have any evidence for Jesus? Nope, and he left. All right. Okay, cool. All right. Said that he had 2 questions, and I get that he asked. Well, technically he asked 3, but I mean, at the end of the day, though, I mean, that doesn't mean you can't stay on here and at least give evidence for your side. So, I guess.
Flawless victory. Fatality.
All right. Well, that's how that works. All right. Also, I'd like to congratulate. Thank you very, very much. I believe that's Aaron. I'm pretty sure that's Aaron. Aaron and Matthew Mulkeen joining 35-second gang there on YouTube. Thank you very, very much. And we've got, there's the, they immediately started using the Bart Ehrman emoji. Yes, the Bart Ehrman emoji on YouTube. Thank you very, very much. And I thought, no, I didn't see anything else. And by the way, if you're on YouTube and you want to come up, I take guests on TikTok. And if you don't like TikTok or don't have a TikTok, send a super chat with a question or just a statement that says, oh, this loser's a douchebag or whatever. And I will read it. I will read it live on the air and I will respond to it. Next up, we've got, let's see, who is this? Chow Chow Society or something?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What you got?
Well, I mean, I was on your podcast yesterday,
Oh, right.
and
Yeah.
and I didn't get a chance to say anything. So
You didn't get a chance to say anything. What do you mean?
well, the guy was talking too long, and I ended up cutting out.
Oh, okay.
Cutting off.
I remember your profile picture. Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm gonna go back to something you were saying yesterday. I always thought about it. Throughout my childhood. I'm a little bit older than you. So when you said that, how can illiterate people write out a Bible, right? And I felt that, when you were saying it about Paul, how can somebody illiterate, how can God give somebody that's illiterate, he just write out something in a whole different language?
I didn't
You
ask
remember
that
saying,
question at all. I didn't say anything about God.
no,
And also, that's Peter and John, not Paul.
well, you were saying something about, somebody being illiterate yesterday.
Yeah, Peter and John. Yeah,
Okay,
because that's
Peter
what the
and
Bible
John, right?
says. Yeah.
Right. And I feel that, and you know what I'm saying? Even with a lot of texts that they have out, I was thinking, who made up all this stuff? Where did it come from?
Okay.
I believe that there's a God. I don't believe that there's anything else but that. We only serve one God.
Cool. I mean, not really, but all right.
To
What's the name of this
religion,
God, by the way?
whoever made us.
Cool. And what's the name of that God?
I don't have no name for him. He's just
You
a
don't
God
have a
to
name of
me.
the God? How do you know that
No,
he made
I don't.
him?
Well, who else made us?
That's not how that works. That's like saying, if there's no master, whose slave will I be? That's not how that works. Where'd you get the idea that we were made by anything? Yeah,
We had to
you
come
read
from
the Bible.
somewhere.
Just admit that you read the Bible and you believe the God of the
I've
Bible.
never read the Bible.
Yeah, you have. Don't be a
Never
gaslighting
read it.
piece of shit. Anyways, that being said, you either read it yourself or somebody read it to you and you believed it. So when you
Well,
say
I
the
believe that
one
we.
God, when you say the one God, how do you know it's not multiple gods that made us? How did you determine that?
Well,
So I'm going to ask you this
there,
again,
there,
and you
there,
better
there,
have an answer for it, or we're going to go ahead and move on. How did you determine that it wasn't multiple gods and it was just one God? And go ahead and admit, by the way, this is your way out. You admit that you actually have read the Bible, or you at least believe in it.
I have never read the Bible.
Okay, so
For
you
one,
believe in it because somebody told you that there was one God and you just bought into it. Is that correct? Because you said the one God,
there
and
had.
that is very Judeo-Christian coded. So very clearly, you either read the Bible or someone read it to you or told you about it, and you bought into it. Is this correct?
I
Just
don't
be
understand
honest,
where
dude.
you don't.
Just be honest.
I don't understand where you don't believe me that I've never read the Bible.
I didn't say that. I said you either read the Bible or you believed it when it was read to you or told to
So
you.
you keep on telling me that I read the
Sweet.
Bible, and I'm
So
telling you
which
no.
I didn't
I've never
ask if
read
you
it.
read the Bible. Were you told the Bible and you believed it? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming up and showing us all that you are a dishonest piece of shit. We're going to move on to somebody with wrinkles on their brain. Thank you very much. All right. Yeah, he absolutely read the Bible. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said the one true God or anything like that. That's dumb as shit. No. And he didn't have any response for how he determined that it was one God instead of multiple gods. So, yeah. And where I was going with that, by the way, because I don't usually talk about the theological supernatural shit, but where I was going was that he had said that there's only one God. And technically speaking, if he believes in Yahweh, which he does, then that's part of a pantheon, which means there's multiple gods. Also, the Old Testament mentions multiple gods, so I don't know what to tell you there. Also, if you believe in Jesus and think that he is God, well, then that's two. And if you think the Holy Spirit is also there, that's three. Just because you call it a Trinity doesn't mean it's not three gods. All right, what is going on, Vincent Albrecht? Vincent Albrecht.
Hello.
Hey, what you got?
Albrecht. How
What?
dare you mispronounce my name, you
Albrecht?
illiterate piece of... Alright. Just a joke. I think
Okay.
you called the guy earlier a little... You were a little harsh with him.
Nah. What you got for us?
But... maybe we could talk about the Shroud of Turin.
Maybe we could. What else you got in the way of evidence? Also, it sounds like you've got like Bluetooth on or something like that because there's a lot of echo. I muted you really quick, but like take it off of Bluetooth or something and then unmute.
Do you mean like you could hear yourself? Or
Yeah,
what?
I could hear myself after I spoke, but I think it's better now. Sounds like it's better now. Well, maybe.
Now I was muted. I guess that's a TikTok thing. On other platforms it works, quite honestly.
What other platform
I'll
do you
just mute myself. I'll just mute myself when each time you speak.
All right. So what's your evidence for Jesus? Go ahead and give the evidence for Jesus.
So first of all, I think the Shroud of Turin is certainly evidence. I
Do
would
you
also
have any
say
real evidence?
why would you say that the Shroud of Turin is not real evidence?
Because Jesus lived in the 1st century, not the 1300s.
Well, I take it you took the date of the 1300s for the Shroud of Turin out of the carbon dating, probably, right?
No, I took it off the fact that that's when it shows up. In fact, the face on there is Jacques de Molay, who died in France in the 1300s, and that's when we start getting it. Is in Lire, France, in the 1300s. Is the first time that 3 things get written about it, and 2 of those 3 things are telling you that it's a fake. In fact, the Catholic Church said it was a fake until it got popular and got moved to Turin, Italy. So yeah, and now the Catholic Church does not say that it is real. They stop short of saying that it's real. The only people that are trying to say that it is are just like really gullible Christians. So I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, it's very clearly artwork. The face on there does not appear in any way, shape, or form the way that a 3D object like a head or a body or anything like that would appear on a 2D plane after getting an impression from dust, dirt, mud, blood, radiation, or light, as the more fantastical Christians would like to claim that the impression was made from. So anyways, do you have any like actual evidence for Jesus or Paul, or did you want me to move on?
I would like to talk more about it, maybe counter to the arguments you have just laid out.
Sweet.
I
The
think
only thing that I will accept as evidence for the Shroud of Turin is an explanation as to why the face does not look like for instance, the Mask of Agamemnon, which is shown here on the screen.
I can't see it on TikTok right now. I don't know if there's a problem for me or...
I think it probably is. But yeah, the Shroud of Turin, if it got an impression from Jesus's face, we would see the sides of his head whenever we look at the face. Unfortunately, we don't. We see it as if you're looking at artwork or like a statue or a person in front of you because it's artwork.
So have you read any like studies in particular on the
Yes,
Shroud of
the
Turin?
only thing that I will accept as evidence as an explanation as to why we do not see any kind of side of the face or any kind of evidence that a 3D object like a body was placed under the shroud and we got the imprint from it.
And we actually have that evidence. On the front side of the shroud, there's the imprint you're probably talking about, which behaves this normally to what we would find, but on the back side of it, we can actually see traces of sweat and blood and such.
That is not at all what I was talking about. I don't think you understand what I was talking about, do you?
You just said that what is the evidence that there was an actual body laying in it, and that it's not a piece of artwork.
Yeah, no, that's not what I said. I said that a 3D object like the Shroud of Turin, would end up looking very different if you got the impression of it onto a sheet and then laid that sheet flat. If you were to take a basketball covered in black paint, lay a white sheet on it, and then stretch the white sheet flat, it would not look like you're looking at a basketball just laying there. It looks all oblong or distorted because that's just how it works. You would get the side of the basketball, and then all of a sudden the side of the basketball would appear to the sides of the front of the basketball on the 2D plane. That's how like a map works, because the Earth is a globe, not flat. So whenever we take a look at a 2D map, it's going to have distortion. That's how that works. You can't get a perfect image of a 3D object the way that we like see them in front of us onto a 2D surface. That's how that works. Unfortunately, the Shroud of Turin depicts, in the negative at least, a face and a body that is as if you were looking at a statue, artwork, or a person, as opposed to an actual like impression of a 3D object onto the shroud.
So you're talking about the imprint, correct? You're
That's what the
focusing on
Shroud of
that right
Turin
now.
is. Yeah, the Shroud of Turin. If it wasn't for the imprint, you wouldn't have any idea what the Shroud of Turin was. It'd just be a sheet.
Well, the imprint is one big part about it. I like to sever
It's
it
not
into
one
two
big part about
parts.
it. It's the only thing. Literally, it would just be a sheet if it wasn't for the impression.
And that's actually incorrect. We can find blood traces on the shroud.
Cool. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about. It also isn't something that we could like actually verify is from the 1st century or from Jesus, because we'd have to have known samples from Jesus in order to compare it to it. So what you're talking about, that dog won't hunt. Go ahead and address what I said, or you will be disconnected and I'll move to somebody else. Or you can say that you don't want to talk about the shroud anymore. You have a couple options.
I can continue to talk about the imprint for sure. So
Well, address what I said about it.
I'm trying to address what you
Okay.
said about
Well,
it
then
right now.
don't be bringing up blood or anything else like that. We're
No.
talking about how a 3D object would not look that way.
Okay, but do you think it's fair that in a debate, when you say there's nothing else about the Shroud of Turin except the imprint, that you...
All right. Home, the sovereign ruler and leader. How's it going? You're off the app at the moment, but
Oh,
there you go.
hello, bud.
Hey, what's going on, man? What you got?
I'm very good. So I agree with you, in part. I do agree with you in part, because obviously the word Jesus didn't emerge for like quite a few centuries after Yeshua or Joshua, I think, was the first like documented use of that name. It was a very popular Hebrew name back in the day. But I mean, obviously, if we look, I'm an atheist, right? So I'm going to come at this purely from an atheistic point of view, right? Jesus and Paul definitely existed. Were they the same people that are written about in these fictitious books? I can't speculate.
Why would
I
you
can't
say that Paul
speculate, but I
existed?
know for certain that Jesus is locked up in an ICE detention somewhere by your maniacal fuck of a president, and yeah, big up America. I'm sorry about that.
That was weird. All right. Well, if there's any evidence for Jesus or Paul, come on up. Yeah.
Hi, brother. How are you? You are from Syria,
Nope.
refugee.
All right. Any other evidence for Jesus or Paul? Any other evidence? Make sure that. Anybody out there has got some kind of evidence for Jesus or Paul? I mean, if you do, come on up. I want to hear about it. Definitely want to hear about it. Bart Room in the chat. And thank you very, very much. It looks like over there on YouTube, we have Azino Lapudre. Thank you very much for becoming a member of the 35-second gang over on YouTube. Thank you very much. The Wisdom Eye, what you got?
Hello, my friend. I just wanted to continue from what we spoken of last time, and I agree with you. There is no evidence from dating from that period that suggested Paul ever existed, or Mark, or anybody else. But I was, like I said to you, I was tracing the routes where the Christianity was getting present by dating the churches, right? So there was a route coming from Turkey up to the Europe and then reaching Constantine. You know, I'm not going to go there; it's too far away. So, and there are suggestions that the Mark the Evangelist who went to Egypt, and then, you know, and I was trying to find any evidence where is the Vaticanus coming from, and I was still to this day unable to find any source of what did they use to compile Vaticanus, which was already in place before they even discovered the sites with parchments, right? So I had a theory that if Paul existed and he went the Turkish route, and Mark and Thomas maybe went to the southern route to Egypt, that could indicate where the story is coming from and give a hint about if these guys existed or not. And I was peculiar about Constantine later on, why he attributed this church in Vatican Mount to Paul, which still there was no evidence, but allegedly there was some narrative already going on before the Vaticanus was even written. So, but we don't have these parchments, we don't have these evidences. So what do you think about this theory that would suggest that actually Christianity spread these routes, and the origin of the parchments and the scripts themselves coming to Egypt?
I'm not going to lie to you,
Sorry.
man. I don't know why you're focused on the Vaticanists. That's fine if you are, but I'm not, and I no offense, man, I don't care. Like, I don't care about where Vaticanus came from necessarily. I get that it's an interesting topic, but like, it's not really part of the topic here. We're trying to figure out whether or not Jesus or Paul existed. That wouldn't have anything to do with where Vaticanus came from, because Vaticanus itself dates to about the 4th century. I don't. I mean, it's maybe peripheral to what we talk about here, but it's not what we're talking about here.
What I was trying to get at is that if Paul, as per scripts, he went to these routes all the way to Rome, so from the Turkey side, right up there, and then reaching the whole teachings of Christianity went this route also. So Vaticanus could have been written later on from some other manuscripts, which we don't have evidence for, of course, I agree.
Why are you talking about Vaticanus? Like, I don't care. We don't have the answer, and that's fine. Like, I don't know what, like, and if you find it, that's fine, and you can like talk about it if it has anything to do with whether or not Jesus or Paul existed. But I can tell you right now, it's not going to, because where it comes from, the routes that it's being used on and stuff. This dates to the 4th century, man. I'm aware that there are routes by the time that the 4th century comes around that are used. That doesn't get us any closer to people who barely made it past halfway through the 1st century. Like, how does that tie it in with the topic? If you can tie it in with the topic, you can stay on here. But I don't know how this ties in.
Why I was trying to tie it with the topic is by chronologically dating the unfoldment of Christianity towards Europe and Rome, and dating the sites which are found. Not the 4th century. So some of the churches
Vaticanus dates to.
I know, but that did allegedly Vaticanus was written or compiled from other manuscripts. Allegedly, nobody knows what Vaticanus was made of. So I'm just trying to. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to.
You see what I'm saying? Like, if it's from earlier manuscripts, that could be from the 3rd century. That doesn't get us any. I mean, maybe it gets us 100 years closer, but we got 300 years that we've got to deal with all the way to get to Paul. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
they would have to somehow be. We would have to somehow find something that we don't have that would somehow give us roots back into like maybe the 3rd century, and then maybe see if that connects to the 2nd or the 1st. Like, it would be a while before we would somehow get to the historical Jesus and Paul. And I mean, if the trail has gone cold in the 4th century, I don't think that it's gonna warm up to the 1st anytime soon. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I mean, we might be able to find where like people got some of it for the 4th century manuscript, but like I don't know how that would tie in with what we talk about here, is the thing.
No, but I was just trying to say people are always grasping for the parchments which are found in 1800s, and Vaticanus was written or not written before that, because it's not dated dated before that, but the story which is in Vaticanus matches the stories which are found later on by others. So everything comes from the same source allegedly. I would presume Alexandria, even Vaticanus probably has been written in Alexandria. So I don't know. I was just trying to mention how I see maybe a pattern of Christianity unfolding through this route in the churches which are in place and dated in the 1st century. So I don't know. I'm not stating that the Paul was a real person or nothing. I don't have evidence.
I know. You're not saying that, but you're trying to figure it out or whatever. But I think that this would be a very unproductive way of figuring out whether or not Jesus or Paul existed. I don't think that these two are connected only in content. Like, obviously Vaticanus talks about Jesus and it talks about Paul, but to try to figure out where it came from is not gonna. That's not going to lead us back to whether or not these people are real.
Without evidence is futile. It's just guessing. I agree. Yeah. And I had a question before you dropped me, just about Constantine, right?
Okay.
Arianus and Constantine, right? They had the debate about Arianus was the Arianism is stating that against Trinity, right? While these guys were discussing Trinity and stuff like that. But Constantine, for example, it is peculiar that his arch does not contain any signs of Christianity according to the legend of his vision after the battle. It just contains pagan symbols on the arch, right? And on top of that, a lot of these churches have been built
So
on
what's your question?
My question is, what do you think about Constantine in general? Is he the true father of Christianity, or is he just a big hoax?
I don't think that Constantine was ever really truly a Christian or anything. I think that he was just sympathetic to it because his mom was a Christian. I mean, he's said to have become a Christian later on like his deathbed, if you will, or just had become a Christian at some point. But I mean, there's not really a lot of evidence that he was specifically. I think he just had a soft spot for it.
And one last question, and you can drop me. So you in the last time we talked, you'd spoken about these inscriptions which mentioned the Christus before Christianity, before Christiani, mentioned in Tacitus and Suetonius and Pliny or whatever. But this Christus is not the same meaning, according to my research, as the Christiani. Christus and Christian is not the same word. It's not the same meaning behind the word. So the inscriptions about Christianus attributed with another name or whatnot, that would not place Christiani before the event of Jesus' crucifixion, which happened allegedly 30 AD, right? So I was thinking that
Christiani is what they use in the New Testament, in the Codex Vaticanus, Codex Sinaiticus.
Is it with E or A? I was sure that it's E. Yeah, with E, but the inscriptions mention A, Christianus. Before you mentioned, there was some inscription, and some guys wrote it in the chat. I was anywhere aware of these inscriptions.
CILVI 24944 is Christiani with an E.
E like A, yeah. A. I don't know how to say. My English is bad, but
okay. Well, I'm just saying like
E is like I.
Yeah.
I, and I'm saying with I. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're saying E for I and A for E. Well, then that's like a like E, the letter E. S. Yeah, that's found in. That's found in Sinaiticus. That's found in Tacitus, and it's found in that inscription that was mentioned to you.
Okay, I might check it out because I was quite certain it was with I and not E, or E, whatever. Yeah. No. Anyway, and that's all I had because I was trying to argue that maybe the earliest mention of Christiani was in the Tacitus and Suetonius and Pliny, right? It doesn't prove anything. It just says there was a group Christiani.
No, Tacitus says
you mentioned that
with an E.
With an E, yeah, with an I, right?
E. Jesus Christ. No, the A sound with the letter E. Fucking that letter is found in Tacitus, it's found in the Codex Sinaiticus, and it's found in the inscription in Rome, CIL VI 24944. That letter.
Yeah, maybe I have to check it. Maybe I was wrong in my research. I found it as I, but it doesn't matter. I will read the original
definitely not
text.
I don't know how you got. What? Where did you?
Wrong sources, my brother. Wrong sources. I will agree with you. I don't know. You are very much more versed.
That's incredibly damning. That wouldn't make any sense. That would mean that people believed in a Christ, like a Messiah, and called themselves Christians with an I, like supposedly prior to Jesus's like birth, or potentially prior to Jesus' supposed birth.
So this is what I misunderstood when you said that Christiani were mentioned before Christiani even was mentioned anywhere. But anyway, let me check up on my sources and I will come back because this is not leading to anything.
Gotcha.
And yeah, thank you, man, for having me up. You can drop me.
Thanks. All right. Let's see. Isn't that Christ before Jesus? It's not the only Christ before Jesus. There are Christ figures prior. But yeah. I definitely want to. Does anybody have any evidence for Jesus or Paul? Surely I haven't talked to everybody that's out there. Surely not, right? Surely not. Been alive for an hour, and Culty Steph says, please share the fountain of youth with us old ladies. What are you talking about? I don't even know what's going on. That's not to me, is it? That can't. Oh, okay. Why does Jaren look younger all of a sudden? Oh no, it's because I shaved. Okay. No. It's because I shaved. It's because I shaved. I was like, what are you talking about? He took a bath. Tamad. I mean, yes, but also no. So maybe the old lady should try shaving. Oh, that's funny. Okay. All right. I sent 200 comments to you like, oh my God, damn, that's crazy. All right. So we're looking for evidence that Jesus or Paul existed. If you're over on YouTube, you can click the link and come up on TikTok and join, and come up and I'll talk to you. Or you can send a super chat and I will respond. I'll read it out loud and respond there on YouTube. Thank you very much there on YouTube. Real Bentley Studio sent a star for 2 jewels. Thank you very much. All right. So yeah. That wasn't me. I didn't say it. It was Mr. Eddie. The Mr. Eddie said it. I did not recommend shaving for the old ladies. I didn't say that. That wasn't me. Wasn't me. I'm like Shaggy. It wasn't me. Anyways. Yeah. Rude. See, yeah, okay. Yana, it wasn't me. Rude. Double Donkey and Yana are both they're repeating what. This is what you have created, Aaron. You said it wasn't me, and you say, oh, rude, all that kind of stuff. You have done this. It is your fault that we have to deal with that kind of stuff. Ridiculous.
You done messed up, Aaron!
All right. I don't see any. Honestly, I don't see any. I don't see any people coming up there on TikTok, so I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Now that is rude. Maybe people just decided, hey, we're not actually going to go up and talk to Jaren because he knows that Jesus didn't exist. Remember, guys, 1 Peter 3:15 says you should always be prepared to give a reason for why you believe what you believe when questioned or demanded of you. Sorry. Yeah, there's 200 people watching. Part of the issue was somehow it got flagged there on TikTok for like some kind of harassment or bullying or something like that. So I'm gonna have to like restart TikTok maybe. Might have to do a restart. If you don't request up, the big man unalives a puppy. That's how that works. You do this daily there on YouTube? Yep, sure do. Where should I start my research to get the information you have? If you want the information I have, I would recommend either the website mythicism.web.app, which was created by Gray Eyes, which has a lot of the talking points on here, or the book Christ Before Jesus, which is from me and my co-author. So that would work. You done messed up, Jay Aaron. Oh, God. And maybe we do need a restart there on TikTok to try to get everything going there on that side. Unless it ain't got gas in it.
I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
All right. Maybe we do need to restart there. I think there are missing pages on. I don't even know what that says. Restart for shaving? Probably. Are you Mormon? What? What? How would that even... What? What a dumb question. All right. We're going to go ahead and do a restart there on not on YouTube, on TikTok. All right, everybody there on YouTube, hold tight. We're going to see if we can get some guests. And if you do want to request up, if you're over on YouTube, I can't take guests on YouTube. I have to take a guest on TikTok. So if you have any questions or anything like that, or you want to talk to me, you'll have to click the link that's in the chat or on the YouTube profile. You can come over and you can request up on TikTok. If you don't have a TikTok account or you don't like TikTok or anything like that, you don't want to leave YouTube, that's not a problem. You can send a super chat and I will respond to it. I'll read it out loud and everything like that and respond to it. So we should be good. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, go ahead. Feel free. Feel free. But currently, right now, we're restarting there on TikTok. Trying to get that going there. All right, we'll try that again. Let's see. None of the prophets existed. Nope. Not that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe some of them. Depends. YouTube is still low volume compared to I don't know how to fix that, really. I can try my best, but let me see if I can just move them. I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, if you have any questions or you want to make a statement about how you think Jesus or Paul existed on YouTube, you can either request up on TikTok by using the link in the chat, or you can send a super chat and I will respond. All right. Over there on TikTok, we got people coming in. 7th wasn't me from CBJ Raid, Yana. Let's see. I'm sure some of the prophets did exist because that's the thing. Corey, yeah. Bullying is when I'm sad. What? Wait, what? Okay, so I have told Trinity I agree with you. Jesus never existed. Maybe. I'm not really sure if I know who that is or what that is. Sounds like you're talking about a book. But yeah, if you think that Jesus or Paul existed, come on up. I want to hear from you. Surely you've got something. Surely there's not 300 people out there that are watching and they're like, oh, hey, we don't have any evidence for Jesus or Paul. TikTok affiliate Drake says, howdy, dude. Well, howdy, dude. That's the first time that I've ever seen you misspell that there, Mazikane. And just like that, we're back. Robert made a good point. He said, for sure, we've got something, but you are good and you have more experience in probably talking. I was trying to hurry. There's no hurry. All right. And thank you very much there on YouTube. We also have Amanda Amanda McCullough, I think. 1153 that sent over a gold coin and a star there on YouTube. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. The man, the myth, the legend. Yeah. Nero 16:2, Christiani, Claudius 25:4, Cresto. What are you talking about, man? And now you're picking on Jesus Christ. They have evidence, but it doesn't mean it's good evidence. That is a good point. Gangest of gangs. $4.99 says over on YouTube. Thank you very much from Elope Nope. Says we are here listening. I guess listening to the soul drain from cult members as they realize they've been duped. I think that is something that's kind of interesting. What we are seeing, like from the analytics side of YouTube, is that people are staying for a little longer. And I think a lot of that is because people are starting to realize, wait a minute, this guy's not just like saying Jesus didn't exist and not actually having any kind of evidence. He's just rage baiting. Like he's actually having a conversation with people and they're trying to bring up points and he's able to talk to those points. I'm not just saying this because I just, like to hear myself talk. I'd like to hear somebody else talk, but no one's requesting up. If you're on TikTok, the request button is right there or down there, right below this little Jesus guy. It should be, yeah, it should be pretty much exactly below the little Jesus guy. You can request up and you can have a conversation. Their favorite flavor of Kool-Aid is Christian. It's funny. User was saying some crazy stuff. It's something about like there was a there was a comment from User earlier where they said what was it? uh Bart Ehrman whispered in my ear at a restaurant, the salad bar is only for Christians, and then he went and got a salad. What does that even mean? I guess it means that he's saying that he's a Christian or something like that, but like it's such a ridiculous way to say it. That's funny. I like that. That's true. That actually happened. I love how you and baby Jesus are matching. Yes, we are. That's because Jesus is American, and if you ask Jesus what team he would pull for in the World Cup, he would say the U.S. So, sorry. Someone on TikTok asked, "How can you escape from being condemned to hell if you don't believe?" You just don't go to hell. Is that easy? All right. Oh my God. USA. Still no request up from the Christians. I don't get it. Maybe Christians just learn their lesson. From Argentina, we have the greatest player of all time. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Blame cyber. Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, let me check real fast. All right, they finally realized that you're right. Probably. That's probably it. If we're being honest, that's probably it. Yeah, if Christians want to come up, they definitely can. I'll accept them up. What about no. Sorry, it's messy. Like I'm from America, and I still recognize that. No, it's Messi. Messi is the greatest soccer player of all time. Oh, right. But America has Lady Gaga, so so far. He's not the greatest player of all time. He's the greatest player of all time so far. All right. Yeah, I don't know. $1.99 there from a Nope there on YouTube says, they've given up. Darn it, I need my soul dose. I don't know what to tell you. €2.49. What do you call those? Do you call those cents over there? I don't know what they're called. €2.49 mini euros. Euritos. From FKRS1H on YouTube there says, what if nobody exists but you? Solipsism. Hashtag solipsism or solipsism. I'm not too terribly worried about that. I'm going to continue to live my life as if everyone else exists. So I'll just continue it out. That can't be a pound. €2.49. I don't think so. Surely not. Euro cents? Euro, is that really what it's called? Is that really what it's called? Euro cents? Pence? No, the pence is for the pound. I don't know. I have no idea. Here, let me see. What call cents in euros? Euro cents. Or they are cents. Euro cents or cents. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so that worked. Changed. All right. We got someone who's requesting up. Hopefully they've got some evidence for Jesus or Paul. I don't exactly know what to call them, though. It's just a bunch of emojis.
So you just think every historian's wrong?
Every historian's wrong? What do you mean?
Every historian says that Jesus was a real person. Not you're saying they never existed. You're not saying that he wasn't Christ. You're saying he never existed.
Yeah.
There's multiple accounts of a guy named Jesus who lived in Israel at that 2,000 years
ago.
ago.
Place at that time, but okay.
Well, no shit, but it's the same place geographically.
Sure, I guess.
So
that being said, what accounts do we have of this?
Well, you got the explain to me how you think Socrates exists.
Because we have
contemporaries
of him to talk about him.
Okay, so Alexander the Great, how does he exist?
Because we have contemporaries of him who talk about him.
Okay, so there's multiple accounts beyond the Bible of Jesus existing.
From contemporaries, because that's what I told you for the last two people you brought
First-hand account is a first-hand account, not evidence.
First-hand account would be that would be a contemporary.
Then you would say that the four Gospels, that's the first-hand account, is it not?
No,
and then you also have
first account. Where does it say that?
Because it's literally written in a first-hand account because they're literally viewing.
Otherwise, it would say I saw him. That would be like first person. It doesn't say that at all.
It does say that. Have you read the Gospels?
Yeah. Where does it say that? Where does the author of any of the four Gospels say I saw Jesus?
It's written as a person who is viewing and who's telling the story from what they saw when Jesus was alive. Documenting his actions.
And which particular verse would this be? Let's start with Matthew, which is the first of the Gospels there in the canon. Where
go up.
Where does it say that? Where does it say I saw anything? It doesn't say that at all. In fact, when the Gospel of Matthew talks about the apostle that's called Matthew, Levi, and all the other Gospels, it doesn't say I at all. It just says Matthew. So I don't know what you're talking about.
So these people who wrote these
they're
just
writing a story.
Fun?
Yeah, they're writing a story.
Yeah,
mythology.
They wrote a story. Four different people.
Listen. You said that this was eyewitness testimony. Where does it say it's eyewitness testimony? Where does it say that? Where? What verse?
I don't have exact scriptures on me.
You don't? But you're so sure that it's eyewitness testimony, and you fought me when I said that it's not written in first person?
I will say it is written in first person.
What is first person? Give me an example of first person.
Or it actually is written in second person because they're documenting.
Second person would be you saw Jesus. That's second person. So congratulations, you're speaking in two different persons.
Okay.
You want to try for a third? Because that's what it's written in.
That's what's written in third?
Yep, third person. In fact, it's called third person omniscient, where you're able to hear behind walls. For instance, when Jesus goes off in the Garden of Gethsemane, right before he gets arrested and prays, what are the disciples doing?
I have no clue.
They're sleeping. So how do they know what he said?
They probably, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah. It's because
I would say
which is why you thought it was eyewitness testimony. On top of that, it's written in Matthew that he goes off and prays in the Garden of Gethsemane, but the only people that he even took with him further than the rest of the disciples were Peter, James, and John. So even if before they fell asleep they heard the actual message, Matthew wasn't there.
So you don't think he could have got told?
Nope, because immediately after that, he gets arrested by Judas and the Romans who show up.
So he couldn't write that later?
Unlocked. No. Why would he be able to? How would he know what he said?
So you said Matthew got killed?
No, Jesus.
You just
Otherwise,
said that
how would Matthew know
he
what
got
he
arrested?
said? Yeah, Jesus got arrested. Matthew scatters. He runs off because all the disciples scatter.
That's an interesting one. I haven't heard that one before. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna research that.
Sounds good.
because I don't have
What I'm going
knowledge
to
on
tell
that
you
right
is
now.
that the only thing that you're going to find, all you're going to find is trying to say that like the Holy Spirit told them, or that after Jesus resurrected, that's when he told them, because that's the only way to make this fit. So the only way to explain how something happened is by appealing to magic, and that shows that this is a fictional story. If the only way to show that the story is makes any sense or could be written by this particular person is to appeal to magic, that shows that that's not actually written by that person.
So what about all the other like documents that document someone of Jesus, like that have the same description as Jesus, and they
Like who?
call him by name, that he had a big following?
Like who?
I can't name exact things. I can't leave off of here because it's going to disconnect me.
Well, I mean, if you
So I can't
minimize it,
use
it won't disconnect you immediately. If you minimize it and you don't like close out the app or something like that, you can minimize it and you go to something else and you can check it real fast as long as you come back within like a minute.
I'm pretty sure the numbers, like there's like maybe like 10 to 12 other accounts outside of the Bible of someone of Jesus or someone that from the same to be described as Jesus, like someone who lived there and had a large following.
Unless you're talking about where Christians have gone in and edited historical documents to make it sound like that.
I think the Jews at the time were documenting this person they hated.
No,
I'm pretty, and it's also
the earliest time that
documented.
the Jews talk about it is in the 3rd to 6th century in the Babylonian Talmud, which is using terminology that the Christians use because they're pulling their information from the Christians. In fact, they try to say that he had five disciples or 5 followers, and these 5 followers don't even line up with the same names as the disciples given in the New Testament. So I mean, they're doing a really bad job of saying it. But go ahead.
And I'm also sure that there's like Pontius Pilate, for example, that the people that they had executed there, that's documented.
Yeah.
So
Pontius Pilate is a real person. We know this.
Obviously.
We don't have any writing from him.
Well,
we don't have any writings from Pontius Pilate.
Again, if I close out, I'm pretty sure it's gonna, because last time I got on a live and I did it.
You can minimize your app as long as you kind of keep it going, and you'll teacup is what they call it, and you'll be able to hear me. I just can't hear you, and you can check things out for up to a minute before TikTok will let you. Will just kick you off. If you want to do that, you can. And, I don't have a problem with you checking something. So yeah, you're teacupped at the moment, so you're good. Just go find the information, and you can come back as long as you come back here before too terribly long. But in the meantime, DTF Junkie, are you here, DTF Junkie? It seems like you're off the app, DTF, but you can come back if you want. Junkie, you there? I don't know if Junkie's here or not. No idea. In the meantime, while I don't remember what that guy told me to call him. It's just got the emojis there with the pirate flag and stuff like that. While he's looking at that kind of stuff,
okay.
360 Kenny. Oh wait, oh, my bad. So the guy's back. By the way, what do you want me to call you? The guy with the emojis and stuff, the skull.
You can call me by my name. My name is Preston.
Preston. Okay, Preston.
Okay.
So what you got for us? What'd you find? Oh shit, you're back off the app.
I did a quick little search. So when I close out, I'm reading it. So I'm scrolling up to read it in another tab. So it says.
Right. Yeah. You just come back into the app whenever you're ready and tell me what it says, because I can't hear you when you're off. Now all 3 of them are off the app. What's happening? Everybody's looking.
I'm here.
Well, I think that Preston was coming back. I think he was.
Oh, okay.
I think so. He's got a couple seconds here before I think TikTok will kick him. I wanted to hear what he found. I'm buffering bad? Yeah, it seemed fine over here. I don't know what's going on. All right, but in the meantime, Kenny, what you got? 360 Kenny.
So, first and foremost, you were talking about the contemporary accounts, like of Christ.
Yeah. I mean, well, the reason why is because he brought up some other stuff that we have, like Socrates or Alexander the Great, that we have contemporary evidence for.
Gotcha.
But oh, damn it! All right, Preston, what'd you find?
Yo.
What'd you find?
So
God damn it!
there's
Okay, there you go.
there's a Roman historian from 100 AD who has documented of someone of describing Jesus, of someone who had massive following, and this is at 100 AD. So
Cool. So
it's a Roman historian. So I would say that's a pretty good source for
I'm not even
history
really
of
sure
Roman.
what you're referring to. Who is
I'm
this?
pretty sure his name is Tacitus.
Yeah, that's in 116. Tacitus isn't born until about 30 years after Jesus supposedly died.
Okay, so what is that? But it's still his.
Contemporaries, because
But
you
he's a
asked me about
historian, though.
Alexander the Great and you asked me about Socrates, and I told you that this is that we know about them because of contemporaries. And then you went to you tried to say that the Gospels were written by eyewitnesses, and then I showed you that they're not. And so now we're looking for contemporaries, and the first thing you come up with is something that's written 80 years later.
Well, I would say that if it's a Roman historian, wouldn't you say that's credible? Because you wouldn't just say a historian now isn't credible just because they're born after the fact.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's because
Well, obviously a
historians now
story
are
can
gonna
be
cite
passed
their
down.
sources. They're also probably not going to make giant mistakes if they're going to be looking at said sources. The reason Tacitus is actually considered one of the greatest Roman historians of ancient times is because he was a former senator and he had access to the Roman archives and the Senate records and stuff like that. So he'd be able to
Okay.
check things. So it
Okay,
seems
so
really
him
suspicious
mentioning-
whenever he calls Pontius Pilate a procurator, when Pilate was a prefect, not a procurator. Judea didn't even have a procurator until the decade after Pilate was dismissed in 36. So that's a little strange. Also, he doesn't say Jesus, does he? He says Christ.
I haven't looked. Okay, that's
well, he says Christ,
it's the
and
same
that's
thing.
not because Christ is a title, not a name, and it wouldn't been on a restaurant.
There's only one Christ though, so
No,
therefore
in fact,
he's talking about.
No, in fact, the word Christ was a title that meant anointed, and it applied to multiple people and gods prior to that. In fact, in the Septuagint, which is the Greek version of the Old Testament, the word Christ is used about 39 times to apply to a high priest. And in fact, Cyrus the Great is called a Christ in the Old Testament. And in the Intertestament books, or like the Jewish Apocrypha, Alexander the Great is called a Christ because he's anointed. That's all that means. But nevertheless, if he was looking at a Roman record, would they have put Christ, or would they have put like Yeshua, or like his Latin name? What would they have put? Would they have put Christ, or would they put Yeshua?
I don't know, because it depends if you know his name. But if you know someone's getting hung and everyone's calling him the Christ, the Son of Man,
in
that's
fact,
what you're going to refer to him.
Pilate doesn't even put Christ above his head on the cross.
Well, you put King of the Jews.
Yeah, that's
and
not
that's what he's
Christ.
preferred.
That's not Christ.
But in these other accounts, I've looked at it, he's called the King of the
But that's
Jews.
not Christ. So in this particular case, Tacitus isn't saying, "Oh, the King of the Jews," and he's not saying Jesus. He's saying Christ. Oh, Christ is what the Christians call him later on, and this is the reason I'm saying this is because this is indicative of somebody adding to the text. Somebody has interpolated this into it. They've added it into it later, which is why it's that line. Even though Tacitus is alluded to as early as 200 by Tertullian, that line that says, "Oh, Christ was unalived by Pontius Pilate, the procurator," that line doesn't get mentioned until the early 5th century by a Christian, because it's something that Christians added later. It's not something Tacitus would have written, because it includes multiple mistakes, and it includes a title for Jesus that the Christians use but wouldn't be on any record. Yeah.
Okay.
Not to mention right before that, in the word where he said that whole line that we're talking about that mentions Christ, he's trying to say that the Christians got their name from that. But when we take a look at the oldest manuscript, and I'll actually pull this up just in case you want to see it here. When we take a look at the oldest manuscript of that text from Tacitus, it's called his Annals, written in 116. Let me see if I can go ahead and pull this up here for you. Hopefully it's not being stupid. Okay, so whenever we take a look at it, we see the term. You see this term right here in the margins, this term right here? What does that look like?
Christian.
Yep, it is. Yep, correct. You got it. Well, some people think it's crucifixion and stuff like that, but no, it is Christians.
I mean, I could see that because it is written a little janky, but I can.
Well, it's got the first S back then. It looked like an F. I don't. No, I'm not even kidding you. Literally,
that looks like a G.
Old English. It's just weird. But the point is, this is Christianity, so it's Christians, right? But the reason it's in the margins as opposed to in the text is because if you follow that line, we see this word right here. And this word is translated as Christians in like the English version and stuff like that. It's in the text, but you see this little gap here in the word?
Mm-hmm.
That's because this used to
Sure.
say Christians with an E. Here's the word Christus, where he's got the like Christ, and here's
Right.
the I. It looks kind of like a Y. Here's the I in the word Tiberius, like the emperor's name. Here's the E in Tiberius. This used to be an E. And every single researcher and scholar who has taken an ultraviolet light to the oldest manuscript, this oldest manuscript of Tacitus that we have, they said that that letter comes back conclusively as the letter E, which means it wouldn't make any sense for Tacitus to say Christ there with an I, because he's trying to say that they got their name, the Christians with an E, got their name from Christ with an I. That doesn't make any sense. So there's a bunch of reasons why that line about Christ has a bunch of red flags. And
so what was it
added
written?
later.
What language did you say that was written in?
Latin. That's
It was
what
Latin?
Tacitus wrote in. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was just curious.
Yeah, the first Christian who we know wrote in Latin, his name is Tertullian. He writes around 200, and he actually alludes to this passage. He says, consult your history books. We were blamed for the fire in Rome, which is what this is talking about. And we were punished and everything like that. We were tortured, which is what this is talking about. But he doesn't mention anything about how, like, Tacitus said anything about Christ, because that wasn't in there yet. It wasn't added yet. They mention everything around it, but not the Christ line, because that wasn't added until a little later, evidenced by the fact that there's multiple errors, and it's using a word that the Christians call Christ, but wouldn't be on any like arrest record or something.
Interesting.
Yeah. So again, there are things that people point to say, oh, Jesus is mentioned in history. And I get it. I 100% I get it. If you read this on the surface, it looks like Jesus is mentioned. But nevertheless, these are things that the Christians absolutely edited. I mean, hell, in this manuscript alone, we can tell that they're actively changing the text. We're literally seeing part of the sausage being made, if you will. Like, yeah, sometime between the time that we get this writing in the early 2nd century all the way to the 11th century when we have the manuscript, sometime in those 900 fucking years, they changed things. And the Catholic Church is the people who actually preserve these manuscripts.
Yeah.
They locked these things up behind lock and key and stuff like that. And I mean, things were kind of bad.
Well, I know when the first church started, which it's not technically Catholicism, because Catholicism comes after the fact. But when the church first started, they were like documenting everything, because you have like the first pope, and then it goes down the line, right? And then the first pope, I'm pretty sure, is John. So, or no. I'm trying to remember.
Peter.
Yeah, it's Peter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they try to say that,
and that's right after when Jesus
it's called
died.
An apostolic lineage. They try to say that it like goes through like this person was a pope and this person was a pope, and it goes all the way back to Peter, who goes to Jesus. Is what they say. Yeah.
But you don't think that Peter was the first pope, or you think it's?
I mean, we don't even have any evidence that Peter existed. I mean,
really?
No. This actually shocked me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. But none of the 13 disciples that are mentioned in the New Testament, nor Paul, are ever. What's up?
But there's documents of them being killed, of them being.
Nope.
Yes, there is.
Nope. There's literally no mention of them outside of Christianity once. In fact, like
so
Peter,
they didn't go around. They didn't go around the world making churches. They didn't do that.
We don't have any evidence of them doing that. No. In fact,
you still have their.
Say what?
Okay.
Go ahead.
You still have remnants of them. Like their church is still around. Like you have St. Matthew's Church. It's literally there.
Well, I mean, it can be called St. Matthew's. There's a St. Matthew's in my hometown. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's literally the church that when you
there's no evidence that Matthew actually was there. That's my point. You can call it whatever you want to call it. What's the evidence that Matthew actually started it?
Okay.
Well,
I don't know, because I haven't
exactly. The Catholics just kind of say shit. That's just kind of how that works. I mean, there's 3 churches that say they have the holy prepuce, which is the foreskin of Jesus. Doesn't mean shit.
That's kind of funny.
I'm not even kidding.
That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny that they're flexing that shit.
Yeah. So I mean, people
funny.
they can say it, but that doesn't mean that they have evidence for it. In fact, the most of the church, we don't have any like physical buildings or anything like that that date to the 1st century. None. St. Matthew's doesn't date to the 1st century. At earliest, the actual like physical buildings that we have date back to about the 4th century. The oldest inscription that we have that says Jesus dates to the 3rd century in about 239. It's part of a mosaic on a floor. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that that's evidence of the church, which would go to the 3rd century, but that's not. We don't have any evidence of any of these buildings that are used as churches or anything like that going back to the 1st century. Like, we just don't. So even when they call it Saint Matthew's, there's no evidence that he started it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But nevertheless, this group does exist. We do have mention of the Christians or the Cretans going back potentially into the 1st century BCE. So potentially before Jesus was even born, we have this mystery cult like Christianity is around. But then they end up with a story of Jesus in the 2nd century is when that shows up.
Okay. Do you mind if I get off for a quick little 30 seconds and then come back?
That's fine. That's fine. And while you're looking, I'm going to take a look to see what Junkie has for us. Junkie, what you got? Thank you for patiently waiting. What you got, Junkie? Let me send you an invite to unmute. Junkie, you there? Junkie. DTF Junkie?
Hello?
I don't know what he's been muted for this whole time, I think. Henry, what you got?
Hey, so I was wondering, your question is Paul of Damascus and Jesus of Nazareth did not exist at all.
Paul of Damascus?
Is he not? I'm sorry. Is that not where he's from?
You mean Tarsus?
Tarsus, I'm sorry.
Yes.
But
yes.
do you believe that man did not exist?
Correct.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
So,
do you think we have...
I guess just what I want to ask is
do you think we have historical evidence for Paul?
I think historians widely attribute at least a couple of the letters from the early church to Paul.
Okay.
I
mean, there's letters in ancient times that are attributed to Hercules. I don't care.
I mean, the communities were built up around the existence of Paul, wouldn't you say?
No. In fact, no one mentions Paul until the middle of the 2nd century. If they were built around Paul, I don't know why he's not mentioned in Revelation and shit like that if it's connected to Rome.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't really ready for this.
Well, I mean, no one mentions Paul. There's only outside of Acts, only one text in the New Testament even mentions Paul, and that's 2 Peter. And even Christian scholars know that 2 Peter is not written by the same person who wrote the 1 Peter.
By Peter, yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, Acts 4:13 says Peter is illiterate. So he didn't write either one of them, let alone 2 Peter.
I'm just saying I don't really think they're prophets, but I feel like it'd be unlikely that so much would be attributed to two men who didn't at least have some historical existence.
I guess you also accept Adam, Abraham, Moses, Jacob.
No. No, I don't.
Well,
those are mythical accounts of people that I don't believe existed.
You nailed it. You don't know you nailed it, but you nailed
it.
Exactly.
I'd say on
Jesus
account
and
of
Paul is mythological. It's mythological. That's how it works. All right.
All right.
I mean, do you have any evidence that they're not mythological or something?
No, I think I'm done. Thank you so much, though.
All right. I mean, you can ask questions if you want. I mean,
no, that's all right. I'm gonna go.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you can stick around if you want.
Yeah.
So I think I found evidence of early church in the early 100s, 180, of there being a network of churches already set up after Christ died. So.
Okay. I don't even know what you're talking about, really.
Well, I'm saying. So you're saying that
I said we don't have any physical buildings that date to that time, is what I'm saying.
Okay, but there's letters that were sent outside of Paul's letter. Hold on, I don't know. Ignatius and Antioch, I think is how you say that. And they both sent letters to churches, and also the Clement of Rome sent letters to churches in the early 100 AD. So would that not prove that there was already a network of churches that was around after Christ died, that if they're outside of Paul's letters that prove Christ died, because they're sending letters to churches because they're already set up a whole network around that area?
So there's a lot to get into. So first of all, it's pronounced Clement of Rome and Ignatius of Antioch. But that being said, Ignatius of Antioch is not writing that early. The only reason that people think that he is because Eusebius, who is an early church historian in the early 4th century, he's an admitted liar and church propagandist, and he said that Ignatius died in about 108 to 110. But no modern historian that doesn't just take Eusebius's word for it places the death of Ignatius around 110. They generally place it from the 140s to 160s. And Christian scholar M. David Litva here recently placed the dating of Ignatius's letters at about 170. So definitely not. There's definitely no writings from Ignatius that early. That's pretty crazy. As far as Clement goes, there's no evidence that Clement even wrote it, seeing as it never mentions Clement in the letter. And the first time that we get any mention of it is from Hegesippus or Irenaeus in 180. So that would be potentially about like 90 years afterwards or something like that.
What I'm reading, it says that in the early hundreds, he sent letters to Asian, across Asia, to churches that were already set up there.
Yeah, that's like church tradition. Yeah.
Yeah, so in that sense,
I mean,
you would
but
say,
the other part to this is that not only did Clement and Ignatius actually not write that early, it's not written at that time period. The evidence shows that it's later on, from the mid to late 2nd century, is when Clement and Ignatius actually write. But nevertheless, doesn't matter. The point is, your entire point is that there's churches. And I already said, yeah, this mystery cult goes all the way back to like the 1st century BCE. So, okay, like that's not a problem. It's just that, again, this would go back to the 1st century BCE, and the church itself, like church just means community. There are Christian or Christian communities, yes. What I said earlier is that we don't have any physical evidence of any churches in the 1st century that were started by Matthew or something. I'm well aware that the communities had they were around. They may have had some worship places, maybe, but I mean, that doesn't mean that like they were started from the disciples or something.
Well,
That
here's
was my
what
point earlier.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, like, if it's already across to Asia, wouldn't you say it had to be around for a decent amount of time for it to reach from, like, all the way from from Israel to all reach across Asia? I mean,
when you say
I
Asia,
feel like
what you know, that's Asia Minor, right? Like
I have no Asia Minor.
Yeah. So let me explain. Let me see here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Hopefully I can. I don't know. It's being stupid.
Oh, it says minor and beyond.
Yeah, Asia Minor. Yeah. That's not just like Asia, like fucking like China or something like that. Like no, that's Asia Minor, is like just north of that area.
It says beyond, so I would say that means that it would go farther.
Farther north, like into the Black Sea?
No, I'd say it'd probably go east.
No, that wouldn't make any sense.
It wouldn't. Okay.
No, the Asia Minor is like northeast of Jerusalem. So, or not northeast, northwest of Jerusalem. So it going beyond wouldn't mean any. That I don't know why that would be east. I mean, eventually, I guess, yeah, but I mean, nah. Not to mention, we don't have any evidence that Christianity actually started in Judea. The evidence suggests that it actually shows up in Asia Minor. In fact, if you listen for a while, to what I say, the first person who published a gospel is Marcion. That's his name. He's a Christian theologian in 144, and he comes from Sinope, which is the largest city on the coast of the Black Sea in northern Asia Minor. So Yeah, the fact that all this stuff is coming from Asia Minor, that doesn't mean shit about like how long it's taken. It just means that's where it's coming from because that's where it comes from. In fact, Asia Minor is kind of the epicenter for Christianity. That and Alexandria. I mean, the oldest, like the 2nd century church fathers and stuff like that, just about all of them have something to do with Asia Minor. Like they're from there, or they die there, or they go there, or something like that. Asia Minor is like the main hub. That area, that region, is for Christianity. That's where Christianity comes from. It's you could say it's a Turkish religion, kinda, but that's like pre-Turkey. But
Well, I usually associate and we were modern day Israel is, or where Gaza is like in that same spot.
No,
Right there.
Gaza and Israel is not in Asia Minor.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's where I would associate Christianity start. Would be
Well,
right
yeah, that's
there.
where most people think. Yeah, but I mean, we don't have any evidence that it comes from over there. None whatsoever.
Okay. So I have a question. So you're saying, so what about the Torah? Do you think that's all just? Do you think it's mythological too? Like it's just
why?
Okay. No, I was just curious because
Torah?
like
the
yeah,
first
like
5
the
books of the
No, I mean like the Old Testament basically. When I
The
say that,
Tanakh?
yeah, Tanakh.
Also mythological. I
Okay.
mean, most of the Tanakh though is like prophetic stuff and like poetry and shit. So I mean,
So what about like the
not really that big of a deal.
like the
Here's that
stuff that's
map that I was trying to
described?
pull up. I don't know why it
Okay.
does that sometimes. This is where like Jerusalem is, and like this is from
Alright.
like the 1st century. Like it's over in this area, right over
Mhm.
here. All right. What you're talking about is you're talking about like Asia Minor is like this is Asia Minor. Here's Jerusalem down here, so it's like northwest of it.
Okay.
In fact, Sinope is right here. This is where Marcion's from.
Okay.
So yeah, all these different people that were having it. Here's that Antioch place that you were talking about, Sinope, yeah, Ephesus. Like one of the churches that
Yeah.
supposedly Paul writes to is Ephesus. Here's Corinth. You know, it's all coming from like areas that are around this area.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there's also Rome, but I mean, that's whatever. But we don't have any evidence that there's anything else.
So I hate to strive away from, since we've been only past New Testament or only past like where Jesus already died. So what about like the stuff that's described in the Old Testament that turns out to actually be where it was and where it was described?
That's incredibly rare.
I mean, Solomon's temple was where they said it was, and the remains were right where they said it was, and they literally went and historians went and found it.
You mean Solomon's temple in Jerusalem?
Yeah.
Well, no
The
shit.
one he built
Why
when he
wouldn't
was
it be?
king.
That
But I'm
doesn't
just
have
saying,
anything to do with Solomon,
it's
though.
the
Like, that
one
doesn't have any
when he
evidence
was
that
king, he
Solomon
built
is-
when he was king, he built a temple, a castle, and then when it says when the Bible describes it, it describes exactly where it was, and that's where it was where it described it, and no one knew where it was, and everybody.
Yes, they did. It's on the Temple
But
Mount.
no one looked for it until recently because they just didn't worry about it, and then they went to
What the
look,
fuck are
and
you
it was
talking
there.
about?
They couldn't
What you're
find
talking
it.
about is not real. No, it just not finding it is
It's
not
not
finding
real.
it is different from the concept of like that's different from people saying that it's not there or people saying that it's like we don't know where it's at. That's very different. Like what you're trying to say is that like they use the Old Testament to somehow prove where Solomon's temple was. It's in Jerusalem, dude. It's not that hard to figure it out. Like it's just you might not be able to find it, but we know where it's at. It's in Jerusalem. Why wouldn't it be in Jerusalem? Like it's not like
Well,
it's
that's
not
not
like
what
the
I'm-
Bible said, "Oh, it's up on this fucking mountain and we found it on a mountain." Like no, it's in Jerusalem, dude. It's the same place that the old temple was. It's the Temple Mount. Like what? It's not really that hard to figure it out. They didn't really need the Old Testament to tell us that the Temple of Jerusalem is in Jerusalem.
That is a good point. But what I'm saying is though is like it was lost though, and then they went biblical accounts, and then they found it.
Biblical accounts don't mean anything. We already knew that there was a temple there. The Romans destroyed the temple in the, or not Solomon's temple, but they destroyed Herod's temple in 70. So we knew where the temple was supposed to be. It would be surprising if it wasn't in Jerusalem. That would imply that like they built a temple and then built a temple somewhere else later on. Like, no, we've known the whole time where it's supposed to be. That we didn't use the Old Testament to do shit. It was actually in China. Yeah. Like, if the Old Testament said, "Oh, the Solomon's temple was actually over on this mountain in Turkey," like Noah's Ark or some shit, then yeah, I mean, we'd use it to go find it. But I mean, do we really need to use the Old Testament if the old temple is right where the new temple was? Like,
Well, they like see how old it was, and it comes from 10th century BCE. So
cool.
I mean,
what does that have to do with the Old Testament?
that's because it's literally the time with Solomon, is it not? I mean, would that not, if it's some of the same time period as it says Solomon was, would that not be evidence that he did that, or that it was him, or someone associated with him?
Nah, New York isn't evidence that
What about-
Spider-Man is real. Rome is not evidence that Romulus and Remus are real, and they said to have been the founders of.
So if
Rome.
but it's dated back to the time period they associate Solomon to.
Yeah, and the founding of Rome dates back to the mythology of Romulus and Remus. Does that mean that Romulus and Remus actually did found Rome, or do you think that they built that story based off of when Rome actually started?
Well, if it's written ever so long ago, and it turns out that the place was built around the same
of
place.
Paul Bunyan lines up with the formation of the Grand Canyon. So do you think the Grand Canyon was formed because Paul Bunyan, or do you think Paul Bunyan was formed because of the Grand Canyon? Yeah, that's how that works.
It's a little different, though.
Nah, it's not. Whenever you have mythology that is written down far, far after, or a long time after the supposed events happen, or these like buildings or cities or whatever are built, it's pretty obvious that they are building a mythology to try to tell the origin story of it, as opposed to trying to preserve history. Yeah, Romulus and Remus are two orphaned twin young boys who are raised by a she-wolf, and then they grow up to create Rome, and then Romulus ascends into heaven upon his death. That doesn't mean that they actually existed because Rome exists. And their story lines up with the foundation of Rome because that's what it's trying to tell. Not to mention, the Tanakh itself, like the material that's talking about this Solomon guy, doesn't show up until about the 3rd century BCE. So do you really think that it's getting something correct after 700 years? 700 years of no evidence that it was actually built by that person? I mean, hell, Josephus there in the 1st century, the Jewish Roman historian, he says that the Hyksos built Jerusalem. So that's a Jewish person in the 1st century, a historian who's writing the Antiquities of the Jews, like the history of the Jewish people, saying that, you know, someone else built Jerusalem and stuff like that.
Of it being built, and then it's the story comes before it is built. Then it turns out that the place was built around after that time. I feel like that's not necessarily evidence, but I feel like that's just, I mean, it's a kind of interesting coincidence.
Not really. Mythology revolves around things that are already there. That's how that works. Like, we have like Achilles and the Trojan War, like with Troy and stuff, like with the Trojan horse and shit. And Achilles, not a real dude, but the war is absolutely a real thing. Like, It's a real thing. We have the evidence of it. That doesn't mean that suddenly, like, Achilles was a real person that was dipped in the river Styx by his mom holding on to his ankles, and his ankle was the only part that didn't get dipped in, and therefore was the part that actually unalived him. So, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
people look at real history or real events or real places, and they build stories based on those things. Same thing goes for like Jericho, because Jericho, the story goes that like the Israelites knocked it down with the power of God and everything, marching around it and shit like that. But that's not a real story. When we actually found the walls of Jericho and everything like that, we see that when it's dated to is it was destroyed prior to the Israelites even making their way over there. So it was destroyed actually by an Egyptian pharaoh or Egyptian king.
And what's the evidence of that?
The timing of it, and actual talks about this in Egypt as well, like because they talk about how they did that. So what my point is that by the time the Israelites
So
or the
Egypt
Hebrews
talks about them
make it,
doing it, so it makes they did it.
yeah.
So if I talk about it, I'd say that I
things
did something. That means I
and
did
things
it.
that date before Israel talking about it. That's the problem. So again, and it lines up with the actual time that the walls fell, like based off of like the dating of like the materials and everything like that they used. But that being said, the reason why we say this is because people, or the reason why I bring it up is because people will look at something like Jericho and they'll say, "Oh, hey, we have these walls that fell down very clearly." So they make up a mythology later on of how they did it in the past. Like they were the ones who knocked it down with God's power, as opposed to the real story that they don't know.
I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying, is that myths get created based off of certain events, and they get tied in.
I've never heard of the Egypt doing that, so I'm gonna look into that one too.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
give me a good little bit, do a little research, which is good for me. I like doing research. Here's so again, there's Assyrian records dating to the 9th century BCE that talk about those Old Testament people, like a main, like what's that called? Crap. Prophets. So I feel like, and that's outside of like outside of Jewish testimony.
I don't really know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What is he saying?
Give me 1 second.
Is he trying to say that there's Assyrian records from the 9th century BCE that talk about the prophets of the Old Testament? That wouldn't even make any sense. He is? Yeah, that's he must have read that wrong or something. While he's off the app there,
Well, they were talking. They were talking to Western kings, which is where that would be associated with, and other entities. Which
so in other words, you just found something that doesn't say anything from the Old Testament, and therefore the Old Testament.
is because if the kings of the Old Testament, I mean, that's who they're talking to.
What kings of the Old Testament?
Dog.
Like Israelite kings? The fuck is he talking about? Or is he saying that Assyrians existed? Yeah, Assyrians existed. Yeah, we have evidence of them. You know, we don't have evidence for the Israelite kings.
Oh, right. But
like the closest that we have
then who
is
are
a
they
stele
talking
that
to then?
might mention David.
Who are they talking to then?
What the fuck are you talking about? You can't
If
just
they're not-
extrapolate, or you can't just assert that your religion is the one that they talk about. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's kind of silly.
Well, they're
Anyways,
also not
we
talking
talk
about my
evidence
religion,
here. I'm not
but-
talking about like who it could have possibly been. They could have been talking to Clifford the Big Red Dog. I don't give a shit. So, do you have any evidence for anything that we're talking about here? Because I'm not just going to talk about like
What
hypotheticals
about-
or something like that.
them like on
What?
like in
What's going on? Is that me or him? Like,
It's in. Are you good or
no, I don't. I can't hear you. It
you
sounds
can't
like
hear
you
me?
kind of cut out there for a bit.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think I gotta close out the app for a little bit.
All right. Well,
It was.
Yo. What's up, dude? Hey, so I just wanted to get your like psychology on like why didn't you don't believe Jesus existed?
Correct.
What do you think they were talking about? You think they were talking about just like a mythological like guy who like did all these miracles and this kind of like the word of the town kind of went around and everybody kind of just went with it?
I mean, sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
Sure. But mythological, yep.
I see that. I can see that perspective. I mean, so like, cause it's all secondhand stories.
Not even really secondhand.
No, when Jesus is talked about, it's all secondhand stories from like Luke, Mark, and John.
Again, it's not even really secondhand. There's no evidence that anybody even knew any of the people who knew Jesus.
Was John didn't baptize Jesus?
What?
You remember in the Bible where it says John baptized Jesus?
What does that have to do with what you just asked me?
You said they didn't know each other.
Do you think we have like something written by John the Baptist?
Why wouldn't we?
Do you think that's what the Gospel of John is?
What is it?
Well, just answer the question.
Yeah, who wrote it?
Oh boy. All right.
Who wrote it? Because there's definitely evidence for Jesus.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna have to. Yeah, I can.
The Shroud of Turin. I mean, what? Like he went to
the
Egypt.
Turin isn't even a thing. So, man. All right.
They found his blood.
Yeah, no.
They have his blood in a laboratory. So, you know that?
Yeah. What lab?
It's on the History Channel.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
The claim that they have his blood in a laboratory comes from Ron Wyatt, who never named a lab, and no lab ever spoke up and said that they tested it. He was actually debunked soundly and routinely by actual scientists. Listen.
It's
Also, the blood, he said it was a sample that he collected when he found the Ark of the Covenant, which was supposedly underneath the like a hill in a shaft that he dug in the Garden Tomb. And the Garden Tomb over in Jerusalem, upon request, will actually hand out documents that explicitly says that Ron Wyatt is a bullshitter.
No, it was a different laboratory.
No,
I know that.
Then name the laboratory.
I think it's classified.
Okay, well then you're just kind of making it up. Do you have any evidence that you can back up, or what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, why would they talk about the Bible is the most historically recorded book in history with all of the names, all of the lineages.
Give us any evidence that
of
that
those
is the case.
Of those times, all of the wars, all of the sicknesses, all of the towns got destroyed, corrupted, the famine, dismantled, the pillaging.
What famines do we know actually happened?
All the ones recorded in the Bible.
Which ones?
Every one of them.
Tell me about one of them.
All the false prophecies, all the angels that they saw.
Tell me about one of the famines.
I'm not gonna go look through the Bible right now.
That's because you're just kind of talking out of your ass. You can't actually name anything, and I don't think you've actually read the Bible, which is why you think that John the Baptist read the Gospel of John.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
do you have anything else, or did you just want to reach back up into the chocolate starfish about elbow deep and pull some out?
The Temple Mount. I think they found it. You know what I mean? Because of the megalithic stones there.
What do you mean?
Right.
It's always been in the same spot. What do you mean they found it? What the fuck are you talking about?
Because we didn't have the technology to be able to move those stones. We didn't build it.
Temple Mount?
Yeah.
The Temple Mount is always in the same spot. It's in Jerusalem. We know where that is. What the fuck are you talking about?
We didn't build it. They didn't build it.
The hill? Yeah, dude. They didn't build a hill. It's kind of how hills work.
The Temple Mount, where the stones are, where the Syrian race is, where the Islamic race is, where the Jewish race is, where the Christians are, the temples.
First of all, do you think Islam is a race?
Muslims.
Do you think Muslims are a race?
It's a religion.
Then
It's a
why'd you
culture.
say race?
It's a society. I didn't say race.
All right. Well, you're stupid. So we're going to go ahead and move on to somebody who has an IQ over room temperature. That was really dumb. All right. I did want to get to some super chats there. $1.99 there from a Lope Nope said, dose of realism hits them is my, when a dose of realism hits them, it's my dopamine rush. Well, same here. And then actually, I don't know what that's called. What is that called? It's called, oh, that's francs, Swiss franc. So 2 francs saying, or is it francs or francs? Francs? I don't know. I have no idea. 2 Swissaroonies, 2 Swisser sweets from RHX5XO, who says calendar is 26 years ago. What happened 26 years ago? Nothing really, I guess. And then 5 Swisser sweets from RHX5XO again that says, brother, 2016 years ago, what happened that we made calendar? 2016 years ago? So in 10? Nothing, really? Nothing that I know of. Please answer that online. I don't have TikTok. You said you will read it out loud. And I did read it out loud. It's just, okay, listen. A calendar is a social construct. As long as you and I can agree on when a date or when to start counting days from, or months or years or whatever, we can kind of sort of like calculate when we want to meet, or we can talk about when something happened. We can talk about a timeline based on an agreed upon way to count things. A calendar is just a social construct. That's all that it is. The earth goes around the sun, and we consider that to be a day. All right? Or no, sorry. We consider that to be a year, and then the earth rotates, and we consider that to be a day. All right? That's all that it is. That's all that it really is. And the calendar, like based on 2026 and stuff like that, that is based on the supposed birth of Jesus. But not only is it off a little bit anyways, even if Jesus was a real person, but the first person to suggest it is a Christian monk in the 500s named Dionysius Exiguus. So it's not as if like we just started counting as soon as Jesus was born or something like that. It's just a Christian idea. That's all that it is. And since most of the world in the 500s, or at least the Western world, was Christian because the Roman Empire had made Christianity the official religion of the entire empire, people just kind of went with it. And so that's what we have today. Prior to that, they used things like which Olympiad, like it was like every 4-year period for the Olympics. Or they used like how many years into a particular emperor's reign it was, or they used a time based on how many years it was since Rome was founded. You can take a look here. This is, let me pull this up here. Is this gonna work? I don't know if this is gonna work or not. Yeah, this is dumb. Okay, but let's see. So when we take a look at say Luke 3, we see that, oh, there we go. It uses that way of counting. It says in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar. So we know this to be year 29 because Tiberius starts his reign in 14. So it counts it like that. So that's just how it worked before we started calculating based on his birth. Oh my God. I don't know who that is, but over there, $1.99 from Gerd Engineer. He says, popped a tire on my Walmart scooter. Send a carrier. You can't do that to me, man. All right, $2 from Zeno Lapu today. Thank you very much for being a member of TFSG. It's going to be hard to race for the cure with a Oh my God, you guys, you can't. You're gonna get me in trouble. You're gonna get me in trouble. Someone's gonna hear it and they're gonna be like, "Hey, were you making fun of godless engineer or something like that?" And I'll be like, "Kinda," but they paid me to say it. So I apologize. Joel heard it. Game over. Joel's in the chat. Is Joel in the chat? Joel might be in the chat. I don't know if he's in the chat or not. Probably in the chat. Let's see here. Okay. I know what's wrong with it.
I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
Joel reads Bible. I just got here. Do I have a sound for Joel reads Bible? Yeah, I do.
Should we blame the government or blame society?
Or should we blame the images on TV?
No, blame Canada! Blame Canada! With all their beady little eyes and flapping heads so full of lies. Blame Canada! Blame Canada! We need to form a full assault against Canada's walls!
That's how that works, guys. If you're wondering what's going on, you just blame Canada, everybody. Blame Canada. Also, Joel Sings Christianese is available on Bandcamp. It's available on Bandcamp. Oh, yes. There we go. For only $10 Canadian, which only amounts to about, what, like $2 American? And it's filled, chock-filled, with a whole bunch of different fun songs from Joel Sings Bible that you can use on your own live. Let's play one right now, just to kind of get something out there. This is the song Old Testament.
That was in the Old Testament. We don't read the shit in the Old Testament. I'm not even sure why it's still in print, but that's the dickish guy from the Old Testament. Sure, he told you how to keep them slaves, and yes, he commanded you to kidnap babes. Only one small tribe were his personal faves, but no one worships a god from the Old Testament. Do they? Do they?
That is Joel Sings Bible, everybody. Joel Sings. Oh, sorry, not Joel Sings Bible. Joel reads Bible, but also Joel Sings Christianese. Joel Sings Christianese. Check it out on Bandcamp. All right. 2 Swisser Sweets there from RH again, who says, whoever wants to know truth... Wait, okay. Whoever wants to know truth, ask Jesus, he is. And yes, I actually played the song He Is earlier today. On the live there from TikTok. So, yeah. All right. How is this my sound? Oh, it says Canada. Yeah. Why would I play something that would you like a different song for you? Maybe this one? It's the only thing I've got against you. So it's how that works. It's how that works. All right. Is there a guest? I think there's a guest. All right, we've got Brandon S. Brandon S has got a little Bible emoji and then a cross emoji and a prayer emoji. So my guess is that Brandon S knows his stuff about the Bible.
I try to, man.
That's
How's
ideal.
it going?
Hey, doing good. What you got, man?
So I've popped in here a few times and listened to some of the things you've said, conversations. Maybe I've missed it. I'm curious, what do you believe in?
What do I believe in?
Besides the fact that like you don't believe Jesus and Paul existed, do you believe in any kind of God?
I believe that Jesus and Paul existed, or Jesus Paul never existed, I believe in some other things, I guess. But what does that have to do with whether or not they existed?
No, that was just more of me kind of being curious, really.
Oh.
So you don't believe that Jesus and Paul existed. What about the other people that are mentioned in the New Testament? Matthew, Mark, Luke, James, Mary, Joseph, all those people. I mean, any of them? I mean, I'm guessing if you don't believe Jesus existed, you...
No. I mean, we definitely don't have any evidence of them.
Okay. So you don't believe the New Testament manuscripts, even though there's 25,000 of them, you don't believe they're real?
25,000 includes like different translations. If you're looking at Greek, that would be 5,700.
5,000 Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many of those are from the 8th century or later? Do you know?
I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know.
93.8% of those are going to be from the 8th century. That's the year 701 or later. Do you know how many of those predate the 3rd century?
Less, just a few.
0. So, I mean, the amount of copies of something doesn't mean anything. The amount of translations of something doesn't mean anything. It's the actual content. Otherwise, we would think that Harry Potter is real because it's been translated and it's been copied. Doesn't really mean anything. The actual content is what I care about, and whether or not that lines up with history. So the amount of manuscripts doesn't really mean anything.
Okay. So would you agree that Alexander the Great is a real person?
Yes, I would.
So we only have 2 writings about him that were 400 years after his death. Why do we
That's
believe
not even
that?
remotely close to true. We have the Babylon Astronomical Diary, which dates to his lifetime. What you're
Say
talking
that?
about is the biography of him.
Yeah, 2 biographies where we have multiple biographies of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I didn't say
So-
anything about how I trusted a biography of Alexander the Great. I trust in a contemporary piece of evidence, which is the Babylonian Astronomical Diary, which isn't a biography of him, but it does mention him. That's the point.
So you don't believe the biographies of Alexander the Great?
I didn't say that. You just asked me if I believed he existed, and the answer is yes, because we have contemporary evidence for him.
Well, I mean, to me, the only evidence we have for Jesus is the manuscripts that were copied so many times we can go back and see.
Cool. So
if there's
again,
things.
let me ask you this question. Do you believe that the amount of copies of something makes it true?
Does the amount of no? I think it's
Then I don't know why
overwhelmingly
you-
good evidence because I
No,
don't
it's
have
not. Do
another
you think that
existence.
it's overwhelmingly good evidence for Harry Potter because it's been copied so many times?
Well, that's to me that's a fictional story. So
Yeah, to me, the story of Jesus is fictional. So the only real way that we'd be able to determine whether or not Harry Potter or Jesus is real is to look into the content and see if it actually lines up with anything in history. The amount of copies of a story about them doesn't mean anything. So you keep bringing up the number as if that means something, and you've already
Well, I'm
admitted
just
that the
saying
number
there's-
doesn't mean anything.
Well, no, but I look at it as we have. I mean, the most historical documents we have for anything in the world is the Bible. But and
No,
people
we're
don't.
talking about Jesus, and you haven't mentioned any historical documents other than just some
The New-
crazy high amount of copies of something that date as old as the 3rd century. What is the historical document that talks about Jesus? Because you
Well-
asked me about Alexander the Great, and I mentioned the Babylonian Astronomical Diary, which is contemporary to him, which mentions him. Do we have anything like that for Jesus?
Well, I want to ask you something about that I think I've heard you talk about before, and that's Josephus. I
Okay.
think you've talked about. Okay,
Josephus
so
would also not be a contemporary of Jesus, but please continue.
but the reason I bring him up, Josephus, Pliny the Younger, Suetonius, all those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't Josephus write in the Antiquity of the Jews about Jesus and Herod the Great and Pontius Pilate? Didn't he?
He writes
mention
about
them
Herod
and-
the Great. He mentions Pontius Pilate quite a bit. They talks at length about both of those people. He hates Herod, and he wasn't a big fan of Pilate either. But as far as Jesus goes, the Testimony of Flavianum we can actually see is interpolated into the Antiquity of the Jews, Book 18, Chapter 3, Section 3, by Eusebius, an admitted liar and church historian at the beginning of the 4th century, about 320 or so, 315 to 320, somewhere in there.
So you don't think that talks about Jesus at all?
No, it does talk about Jesus, but it's added in by Eusebius. That's what I'm saying. It's interpolation. That's what an interpolation is. They're taking a prior existing text and adding something to it.
See, and we can't go back and see like beyond that. That's where I go back to the New Testament manuscripts. We can go really far back to see what was there.
Okay, so the
and
3rd
see if things
century
were
talks
changed
about
along the
Jesus.
way.
Okay, well, you do realize that all these different manuscripts that we have, there's more alterations or more deviations or more variations in the manuscripts, even in Greek, than there are like visible stars in the night sky. You're aware of that, right?
Well, I would know. So I look at those as those are contradictions. Like, let me ask you this: Would you agree if you and I both go to Disney World and we write a story about it that we're going to have the exact same experience?
In no way, shape, or form is this going to get us anywhere closer to the fact that the manuscripts date back to the 3rd century. What do you have for actual evidence of Jesus?
Those
in
that
fact,
date back.
what you're talking about is you're talking about 2 people who literally like witnessed going to Disney World. We don't have any manuscripts that say that it's written by actual eyewitnesses of Jesus. Like, where are you
Well,
getting
no,
this from?
well, I look at it as those were copied from the disciples. The disciples wrote this stuff down.
Where
We
does it
don't
say
have the
that?
originals. Well, we don't have the originals.
Okay,
but
well, where does it say that it's copied by the disciples? Or copied from what the disciples wrote?
That's just what some of the manuscripts are saying, that they're
where?
copied from.
Where does it say that?
I haven't gone through all of them.
The
I'm
manuscripts
actually in
don't
that
say that. That's
process
the
now.
problem. Yeah. So they never say that they're actually copied down from these things. In fact, the names like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John they're not even given until Irenaeus in 180. You can look this up. Christian scholars will tell you that the first time that we get Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John assigned to these things that we know of is in 180 to 185. I mean, hell, they're not even addressed or even brought up or even like alluded to until Justin Martyr in about 155 says Memoirs of the Apostles. Doesn't even call them Gospels.
Yeah, that's where I wish we could see the originals, because I wonder if the originals would have more, but we don't, so it's a moot point.
Well, I mean, sure, but nevertheless, based off of the material itself, it still doesn't line up with the first century. That's the issue. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for the originals to even be from the first century.
So how do they get like the book of Mark, if I'm not mistaken, was written in like 60 AD or 63 AD or something? Like, where would they get that from?
Like the idea that is written at that time period? Like, how do they
Yeah,
get the dating?
somebody had, like,
Mark
they said, I
13.
think in like the book of John, or the Gospel of John, I believe, was 90 AD.
Yeah.
I
So
think.
the reason
So
why they place Mark in that time is because of Mark 13, which mentions the destruction of the temple. So generally speaking, most scholars will place it around 70 because that's when the temple was actually destroyed. There are some people that say that it comes later, which would make sense because it's talking about, the destruction of the temple, so it would need to be written later. But then there's others who believe that it needs to be as early as possible, so that this prophecy isn't just a prophecy from Jesus to the people who he's talking to, but it's also a prophecy for the author themselves. So they try to claim that Mark is earlier than 70. So generally speaking, the scholarly consensus, or the popular opinion, is that Mark is somewhere around 70, but it is only dated based off of Mark 13's reference to the temple. There is no manuscripts. There's no anything there's nothing that even mentions the Gospel of Mark until about the 150s. So no, there's no evidence whatsoever that it's actually tied to that, aside from just people saying, "Oh, hey, here's this thing mentioned, so it needs to be around that time." No, you and I can write a story about the Civil War. That doesn't mean that our books are coming out in the 1860s. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. I look at it as that's the best evidence. The manuscripts are the best evidence we have.
Well, then everything's dated to the 3rd century. Then I don't know what to tell you. John, I
Well-
guess, would be dated to, like, maybe if you included fragments, to like 200, because that's when P52 dates to, and that's the earliest fragment that we have of anything from the New Testament. So that wouldn't be good. Using the manuscripts is not. I mean, that's at best that's giving us the hard limit on the latest. That's all that it is. Like,
Yep,
let's say that you wrote a story about let's say you wrote a story about the Civil War. All right, someone could say, "Oh, it's about the Civil War. It had to come out in 1860." Well, that's not necessarily the case. That's just the earliest it could be written. Does that make sense?
100%.
Okay. Now, let's say somewhere in your text you mentioned something else. Let's say that you compared. You said that, oh, the Civil War was Abraham Lincoln's 9/11. All right. So very clearly, that means that the book had to have come out in 2001 or later, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you're following me here. The content itself is actually what we can take a look at, and the earliest thing that the content mentions. Sorry, no, my bad. The latest thing that the content mentions is the earliest that the book can be written. You agree here? Does that make sense?
I'm following you. I'm
So,
following you.
the latest that the book can be written is the first time that it's mentioned by someone else, or the first time we get any kind of manuscript or something like that. So, for instance, if we see your book about the Civil War, it mentions 9/11 in it, and we also get someone, say, giving a review or something in, say, 2023, that means that the earliest it can come out is 2001, and the latest it can come out is 2023. Sometime in that time period is when it's written. If we can't use anything else in the material, like you never say, "Oh, this is this year," or you never say, "I wrote it during this time period," or something like that. That if we just kind of found your book and we found some review for it as well, that would be the date range that we'd have to put for your book. Follow me?
Following you. Yep.
Okay. So for the Gospel of Mark, what most people highlight is Mark 13, which talks about the destruction of the temple. However, they overlook the part that it says, when you see the abomination of desolation standing where it ought not, let the reader understand, flee Judea, pray that this does not happen in the winter. The point is, we have Jerome, early church father in the 4th century, who said that is tying in to the, or that is a connection to, or talking about the statue that Emperor Hadrian places onto the Temple Mount in the 130s at the end of the Bar Kokhba revolt. All the Gospels mention Joseph of Arimathea showing up and taking down the body of Jesus from the cross. He doesn't have any other scenes or anything like that, nothing before, nothing afterwards. He just kind of shows up. Arimathea is not a place, and we've never found anything that even comes close to the word Arimathea. It's not a word. It's not a place. We have no idea what it's talking about there. And it doesn't really make sense that his character would be part of the council or anything, anyways, because he never speaks up or anything. But the point is, in Josephus's autobiography, which is published in 99, we have a story in sections 420 and 421 where he says that he saw, after the siege of Jerusalem, after the destruction there in Jerusalem, he saw three people crucified that he knew. And he went to the Roman leader in charge, Titus, for permission to take the bodies down. 2 of the men died. 1 of them ultimately survived. So this is the same story of this Joseph who just shows up in the middle of the story, or near the end of the story, I guess, there in the Gospels. Josephus's Aramaic name is Joseph, and his father's name was Matthias. He is quite literally Joseph bar Matthias. He is that's who that is. So they're utilizing a story which was published in 99 for the material for literally all of the Gospels. So all these Gospels we know had to have come out after 99 anyways, because it's talking about things and utilizing stories that come from 99 or possibly even 130s if Jerome is correct.
Interesting. That's a lot to digest, man. I'm with you on the.
By the way, I hate to cut you off, but that makes sense as to why Justin Martyr's the first one to talk about it in the 150s.
Like you mentioned something about Arimathea. I mean, scholars will say, "Hey, we can't find that," but it's believed that it was a town in Judea. That was like what they believe it to be.
Yeah, because they don't want to admit that it's made up word.
So let me ask.
If you believe that this is a real story and it says, "Oh, Joseph of Arimathea," you go, "Oh, that must be someplace."
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you
like
this.
It, but I mean,
this is the last thing. This last thing I have to touch on. So, why would all these disciples write these biographies down? Like, why would they do this? They had nothing to gain and a lot to lose. Why would they have done that?
I don't think they. Wait, what? I don't think they did. I don't think the disciples existed. Why would they exist?
See, because I believe they do, and they did exist.
There's no evidence of them. No one mentions them outside Christianity ever. None of the 13 disciples that are mentioned in the New Testament are ever mentioned in anybody outside of Christianity in antiquity. And they're not mentioned by Christians until the middle of the second. So, I mean, what? Like, where are you getting the idea that they existed? That you're just trusting the Bible and saying, hey, I think that this is just real.
No, I go back to the manuscripts, which we've talked about, and I'm looking into those more because there's a lot to digest there. I'll just say this, man. I appreciate the conversation. I've tried to get in here a bunch of times, and I'm glad we got to chat and be level-headed. And I'm gonna go and digest what all you've said, man, and maybe we'll chat again.
What exactly does the manuscripts? What do you think the manuscripts from the 3rd century are going to do for the existence of the disciples? Like, what is that magically going to do? Like, what are you hoping to find in there?
I'm not sure.
Because I mean, manuscripts are going to be what we have today, generally speaking. I mean, like the NRSVU and stuff like that. Like they're trying to utilize the oldest codices for the New Testament, like Vaticanus and Sinaiticus. So, I mean, researching them, I mean, it's just the same as researching the NRSVU. I don't understand what. Like, what?
Well, to me, I'd love to go back and look at them in Greek and see like what they actually say, because I know they've been translated and there's been things that get mistranslated. So that's my curiosity. Is
how
like,
does that equate to they're real people all of a sudden, or like we have evidence for them? Because I mean, again, admittedly, we're just reading copies. They're not the originals, so I'm not saying, oh, hey, it's come out in 3rd century. No, I'm saying these are copies, but they date to the 3rd century. How does that? Like, how does reading it in Greek suddenly get us to whether or not these people existed?
Because there could be something in there that says something different than what we read in the Bible today.
Like what? Like, give me an example of what you're hoping to find.
Well, like like when I have looked into Josephus, for example, I know in one of his writings he doesn't actually say Jesus, Jesus. So to me, you have to know that, hey, he's not saying those exact words, but he's saying something that's apparent to be. The best guess is that it's Jesus. So there could be something in the Greek that mentions something that would prove the disciples existed. Don't know if that makes sense.
It doesn't. So Josephus doesn't say the word Jesus like in those sounds because I mean obviously he's going to say like Isu because that would be the Greek version of Yeshua and he's writing in Greek. But I mean, what is that? What does that have to do with whether or not like you find a word or find a phrase or find something in the 3rd century manuscript that suddenly proves the disciples? How does that? What? Like, are you just saying like he's not saying something in English, and so therefore, if you find something like that that's not in English in the manuscripts, then it's going to be proof that they existed?
I guess that's a way to look at it. Like I read my Bible in like all the different versions we have in English. But
Right.
then when you start going back and looking at some of the translations in different languages, things start to say things a little bit differently. Like they don't say the exact same thing.
Well,
So
yeah, it's because it's another language.
But that's what I'm saying with the Greek stuff. There could be something in there that gets mistranslated that's in the Bible that we read today.
But how does that?
And
So you're saying that they completely whiffed, the people who are translating into English completely whiffed on something that proves that the disciples are real? That's why I'm asking, what do you think you could find that, I mean, somehow proves that the disciples were real, people who barely made it halfway through the 1st century and were unalive mostly in 60, according to church tradition, in something from the 200s? Like, what do you...
I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't know what I would find. It's something that I'm curious about and I want to look into further. That's all I can say.
But you do realize that those two things are completely unrelated. Like whether or not the disciples existed. I mean, obviously the manuscripts are going to talk about them as if they did exist, obviously, because it's the story of the Bible. Like Harry Potter books are going to talk about Harry Potter as if he does exist. Reading it in the original like J.K. Rowling version or something like that it's not going to suddenly open your eyes up to whether or not Harry Potter existed. You know what I mean?
I follow you.
I don't
I
know
follow you.
what are you going to find? Like unless there's some line in there where J.K. Rowling's like, by the way, and it just never got copied or something. By the way, I'm getting all this material from my next door neighbor, the Potters, or something like that. Like, is that what you're hoping to find in these 3rd century manuscripts that these translators just fuck right there? It's got Paul's last name. His name's Paul Smith. I don't know.
I mean, that's what I would hope. I know has been done. This whole process has been done over and over and over throughout centuries and centuries and centuries. But
you're talking about translation?
I look at it
Is
as
that what you're saying?
all the copies and translation. I look at it as I don't have a better explanation for the death and resurrection of Jesus besides going through the manuscripts. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, it's just like are you a pastor or something?
I am not. Why do you ask?
Because that's just like a really like theological way of doing it. Like you're just like, hey, I can suddenly see something because I read it in the Greek or something. And it's like, no, at best you're reading it to try to get to immerse yourself in the story because you're reading it in Greek. So you're like, oh, hey, I'm reading this as if I was a 3rd century Christian. And it's like getting your feelings and your emotions all like hyped up and stuff like that. And you suddenly think that you're seeing something different, which is why people will always say, oh, every time I read the Bible, I see something different. And it's like, no, you're still reading the same words. It's just maybe you didn't pay attention to something, but nevertheless, it's not like it's changing or something. It's the same text and it's going to be the same text. It's not suddenly some phrase that's wasn't there before. And maybe that's what you're talking about, but I can't fathom something that you could possibly see, even in the Greek. I can't fathom that the translators just completely missed and overlooked this really, really damning piece of evidence that the disciples existed in the 3rd century manuscripts. I don't even know what that would look like. Like did they just looking at the Codex Sinaiticus and going to find the foot of Peter or something in it? Like what do we?
No, I'm following what you're saying. I'm just saying for my peace of mind, I need to do that. That's what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Sweet. So what happens when you look at the 3rd century manuscript and go, yeah, it's basically what we have. Like, and it doesn't give you any more evidence. Like, what do you?
Then I come back on here and have another conversation.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. It's fine by me. All right. Yeah, that's fine. Well, there you go. Do
Thank
you
you, man.
read
I
Greek?
appreciate.
Do you read Greek?
No, I'm just now getting into it. I've looked into Hebrew as well, and
So
read
this
some
is
stuff
going
in
to take
Hebrew.
some time then.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
And so you're learning a language that you don't know to go find something that you don't know is there, and you don't even really know what you're looking for.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know what I'm going to find. I just
It
need
sounds
to.
like you
I
don't know
need
what
to.
you're looking for either, because I asked you to give me an example of what you hope to find, and you. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know what
unless like somewhere between the pages there's a literal like finger of Peter, and you're like, well, shit, I don't know why no one mentioned that there was a like Peter's finger in here. Like there's not suddenly going to be evidence of somebody like that. I don't understand. Like I don't. I don't understand what you're talking about, and I don't think you understand what you're talking about, which is why you can't explain to me what you're talking about when I ask, what are you talking about?
No, I know it doesn't make sense. I get it. You're saying, hey, I'm going to look through this stuff. I'm going to learn Greek. I'm going to look through it, and I'm going to not find anything that hasn't already been said before. That's what you're saying.
More or less. But I mean, if you think that you will, I'd like to have an idea as to what you're hoping to find.
Yeah, something in there that I can look at and go, wow, it makes sense now.
Huh.
And I don't know what that's going to be, man. I really don't.
Consider this. You know what? Consider this. When you take a look at the oldest manuscript of the book of Acts, I want you to take a look in the Greek and see when it talks about Paul's conversion story on the road to Damascus. Jesus talks to him out of, the sky, I guess. And Jesus says, it is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. All right. Now, of course, I'm speaking English, specifically King James Version English. But that line, word for word, even like the plural of pricks there and everything like that, it is found in the Bacchae. That is a play from Euripides, written about 400 or 500 BCE or so. It is a play about Dionysus, the wine god who changed water into wine at parties and was associated with drinking wine and eating bread and everything like that, like the Eucharist and everything like that, prior to Christianity ever being a glimmer in someone's mind. The point is, Jesus, for some weird reason, quotes Dionysus, the wine god, that's a lot like Jesus anyways, word for word. And Dionysus is talking to somebody who was punishing or persecuting his followers. So it's the same reason and everything. So if you're going to be looking in the Greek and you're going to be trying to figure out, oh, this makes sense now, what I would do is I would read this from the perspective of someone who had a whole lot of different stories that were swirling around, and this is the first time that they're hearing this. The evidence for whether or not someone actually existed is probably not going to be in there, but you can at least tie it in. You can at least tie it in with some of the influences that were already around in Greek at that time. And you can see where it comes from. If there's anything that you would find in the original Greek, it's going to be explanations of like how this is definitely a mystery cult that evolved over time as opposed to a real story, because we can see the connections in Greek better between the New Testament and the things that were written at the time. That's the thing. That's what you'd be able to find if you really dug into it and you really like looked at it. But if you only read the manuscripts and you're just going, oh, in the New Testament, and you never look at the Bacchae or anything, you're not going to see it.
Have you? I'm just kind of assuming you seem very knowledgeable on them. Have you gone through all of them, the 5,000 in Greek, or some of them?
All 5,000 of them?
No. Have you gone through? You've gone through some of them.
I mean, yes. I mean, we've my co-author and I, we've. I mean, technically yes, but I mean, I'm telling you right now, I do not read Greek. I do not read Greek. I don't want to learn Greek because the data science that my co-author and I employ is stilometry. It's a lot more nerdy and a lot less wordy. So I don't really care about the language itself. per se, like understanding it. It's more an understanding of like what are the most frequently used words and that kind of thing, because that goes into like the stylometry that we use. But when it comes to our understanding, like I'm going to pour into this every once in a while. I'm going to take a look at things that will pop up. But no, I'm not just like sitting down reading like a Greek manuscript or something like that. Like,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And I guess
Over time
the
we kind of learn Greek, though. I will say that. Like over time, like I can read a little bit of like Greek just because we've just looked at these texts so many times.
yeah, I guess the maybe the simpler way to put it for me is like when somebody quotes something out of the Bible, I immediately, or not immediately, but as quickly as I can, like I hear this at church every Sunday, pastor will say something, I have to go see it in the Bible for myself to, number one, make sure what they're saying is true. And then number two, just put my own eyes on it and say, okay, it makes sense. So that's what I'm trying to say with the Greek stuff is like, I want to read it for myself just to see what it says and go from there. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. So will it change my mind on anything? I don't know, but hopefully I'll get through some of it and hop back in here and be able to have another conversation on it, see where it goes.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey, I appreciate the time, man. Have a great day.
All right, that was Brandon S. Everybody, Brandon S. And a bunch of like little emojis and stuff. Brandon S. Thank you for coming up. Brandon S. Thank you for coming up. Okay, wanted to get some super chats there. Let's see. Five Swisser Sweets there from RH there on YouTube says several 1st and 2nd century Roman historians and officials recorded that Jesus lived and confirmed his execution by Pontius Pilate. Yeah, well, I'm aware that you think that Tacitus and Josephus are legit. What I want, by the way, I'm going to get a marker board that goes like right back here on the wall. This is an actual wall, by the way. None of that weird, like, hey, you got some weird background behind me kind of stuff. Nah, I don't even know how to do that. But yeah, anyways, that being said, I'm going to get I'm going to get some marker board or something like that. We'll just kind of keep like tabs of every time that somebody brings up Tacitus or Josephus. I'll probably have to erase it after like a week or like a day even. God damn. It's going to be terrible. I've all been wondering about your background. Yes, this background here. Cool gray is the color. Cool gray. Yep. Little Jesus. He's in the foreground though. All right. Let's see. And then $1.99 from Dan Schwartz says, did you lose friends when you stopped believing? No. I mean, no, not really. I think a lot of the people that I tended to hang around when I was younger were people who were people who were digging into this and about the same level I was, and same level of interest I was into like apologetics and Christian history and everything, which is evidenced by the fact that my co-author there on our book, my co-author and I have been friends since we were 11 and 12. So it's been a long time.
Hello.
All right, ACOG. Jamie, there we go. I think it is Jamie.
Yeah, it's good. What's up?
Not a lot. What you got?
Okay, so the disciples, all but one of them were martyred off, right?
Yeah, but evidence
except
of
for John, and he was on the island of Patmos.
Yeah, you have any evidence of that?
Do I what?
Have any evidence of their existence?
Yeah, it's historical.
Like where?
Yeah, it's historical.
Yeah, where? What do you got?
Books. I'm not sure what books, but I mean, I'm sure it exists.
Okay.
Why wouldn't it?
Because it's just church tradition. We don't have any evidence that they even existed, let alone like died or something like that. They're only mentioned within Christianity. They're not mentioned outside of Christianity. None of them.
Wow. You truly are ignorant, aren't you, buddy?
Sweet. So what text mentions one of the disciples outside of Christianity?
Say again.
What text mentions one of the disciples outside of Christianity?
Greek and Roman texts.
Like what?
Fuck, I don't know. I don't go to school, man. Like I study
I'm
this
the
shit on my
ignorant one?
own. I don't read. I'm sorry.
You said, and I had quote, I don't
I
know.
guess
but
I'm the
I'm
ignorant one because I believe in Jesus, right? No,
No,
I'm the ignorant one.
No, not because you believe in Jesus, but simply because of the fact that you think that we actually do have mentions outside of Christianity of any of the disciples. We don't. There are 13 disciples mentioned in the New Testament, and there's also Paul. We don't have mention of any of those people outside of Christianity. In fact, we don't even have mention of them inside Christianity until
In
the middle
what?
of the 2nd century.
In what books? What's your evidence for that? There is no evidence.
That's not how that works.
It's not how it works.
Mm-hmm. Like, name me one text outside of Christianity that mentions one of the disciples or Paul.
What texts outside of Christianity don't mention the disciples?
Harry Potter. Talking about in antiquity? Sure. Antiquities of the Jews,
Yeah,
Wars
sure.
of the Jews, Against Apion, Euripides, Apollonius of Tyana, Lives of the 12 Caesars, On the Contemplative Life, Morali Epistolae.
I mean, I heard something you said earlier. I just want to address. You were talking about how Jesus supposedly quoted Dionysus, right? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the reason behind that is because the people living in that time they would have related to that to Dionysus, right? So it was basically him showing that he could do what
I
their
want
God
is
did
I want
and
God
more.
to show up with me, or Jesus to show up down here, and I want him to quote Michael Scott. Be like I want him to pop up and just be like, Jaron, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott, Jesus. You know how dumb you sound?
I don't know. Ask him. Pray to him. Ask him, and he might.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Got any evidence of Jesus or Paul, or do you want me to go ahead and remove you?
Apparently not, brother.
Sounds good. Then we'll go ahead and move on. Let's see. $1.99 on Super Chat from Oren Pact, who says, so you have to say it out loud. Oh my God. Euripides nuts. Oh my, that's awful. Now I'm going to be thinking about that every time that I say Euripides. All right. I don't know what Veritas is saying over there on the thing. I'll send him an invite because I don't know what that's talking about. Let's see here. What you got there for us, Insidious?
Oh, hi. Did you create this to promote your book?
What? Create what? TikTok? No, I didn't. What's your
No,
evidence for Jesus or Paul?
obviously you didn't create TikTok. No,
Yeah.
create
Okay,
your
well then that
TikTok
answers your
account.
question. So, now answer my question. What evidence do you have for Jesus and Paul 2,000 years ago?
A Terrible Methodology, Christ Before Jesus, by medium.com.
That's your evidence for Jesus or Paul? Oh, I guess somebody was tired of your shit. All right. I think that person's already been up before. Yeah. All right. I think he was here the last time. By medium.com, as in medium.com actually like wrote it. Kind of like I created TikTok. Yeah. I don't think that guy understands how English works. Calm down there, James. What you got? What you got there, James? Nothing? All right. Well, see you later, James. All right. Drake, I think your name is. What you got, Drake?
Hey, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
How you doing? It's the first time I talked to you. I've been watching your lives for a long time.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank you. Tip my hat there for it.
yeah, and I appreciate the work you have done and what you're putting out there.
Thank you.
But you do realize you're upsetting the apple cart, and this is very, very bitter. You see, because indoctrination, there's a couple of thousand years of indoctrination that has taken place, and people are just, pretty much gone with it, so it's rough, it's rough. But do you remember a song by Styx called The Masters of the Grand Illusion? 1977?
I know of Styx, but I don't think I know that song.
1977, listen to it sometime. It's relative to what's going on with mankind right now. And, the amazing thing about what you're doing is changing the mindset, the human essence, that's been indoctrinated for several thousand years. It's hard to do. It's very difficult. But the beautiful thing about what you're doing, you're representing the Creator. You're doing exactly what the Scripture says for you to do. Exactly. Because he always says, like he says, 12:44, don't believe on me, believe on the one who sent me. And then when they said, in Matthew, they talking about doing all these wonderful things and, casting out demons in your name. And Jesus turned to them and said, part from me, you work the iniquity. That's sin. That's a sin. So actually, Jesus, what he's saying is to honor and worship the Creator of all things, and don't worship me. So you're actually fulfilling, prophecy. You're actually doing the right works. And I commend you, and I'm sure the Creator commends you for, doing what you're supposed to do. It's just hard for people. When it's like this, man, it's like this. Keeping it real. When I was a little boy, and I'm sure it's still ever present, that, in my household, I seen this Jesus, this, Caucasian guys, blue eyes and straight hair up on the wall, and it was in everybody's household, and that's a form of indoctrination, because that's what in the eye is what is received in the mind. You see, so the mind, once it's changed like that, and for such a long time, it's hard to, turn that around and make it right, but if they take and you actually, you're definitely going against the wind, but keep going, man, because you're doing what the Creator has commanded us to do. If they read commandment, like they say, they just want to throw away the Old Testament and bring in the New Testament. You can't do that. Who gives them the authority to do that? So it's a tough thing. It's tough for people to understand and to accept. But it's okay, because it's what the Creator wants us to do anyhow. Read the Scripture carefully, people. And it says in there for you to honor the Father, even when he closes the door behind him and says, our Father.
All right. Well, thank you for coming up.
On your head.
I did want to go ahead and
are you playing this stupid, or are you really this stupid and it's a scam? It's one of those two things, host.
Oh, you're
either playing stupid.
Are you talking to
and
me,
it's a
or are you talking to
scam,
him?
Or I'm talking to you, obviously.
I don't know.
You're either
Obviously,
playing
you're talking to.
stupid or you're really stupid. I'm talking to you.
What's your evidence for Jesus or Paul?
I've given a lot of evidence. Tacitus.
You didn't even say Tacitus, right? So good luck with that.
That name, historians say that name several different ways. You're
They
stupid.
do not say it Tacitus.
Yes, they do.
They don't. Name one
A
historian
hard
who
C,
says
that's
Tacitus.
Latin. Latin words are hard C's.
If
I'm
it's
sorry,
Latin,
buddy.
then it would be
Maybe you need to
Tacitus.
retake Latin, okay?
Cool.
Just kidding.
Name
You
me
never
one,
took it. 'Cause you're
Name
too
me
dumb.
one scholar who says Tacitus.
I read. I don't usually watch scholars. You know, they're
So
old.
how do you know how they
You get
pronounce it
that?
then?
How do you know? Yeah,
Because
we
I
don't
actually
trust you.
watch
You're
them
some
talk?
idiot who wrote a book that has all bad reviews.
Okay.
The first thing that comes up on Google is a terrible review, so everybody knows.
Sounds good. So what's your evidence for Jesus
And it's
or Paul?
it's a pretty lib website too. All right,
Cool.
bye.
Sweet. Thanks for coming up, man.
Hey, Jaron, I'm just going to say one more thing and I'm going to let you go. Thank you.
Okay.
And then secondly, you know, if Christine Amanpour and the entire cast of Finding Jesus couldn't find him with all of their technology and all of their, you know, capabilities and things of that nature up until today's date, up until now, then chances are he never existed. That's some hellified technology that they're using. They're using all kinds of stuff. Infrared, they're using, you know, X-rays. They're using everything. Come up zero. So, like I say, keep on doing what you're doing. In the long run, you'll be appreciated. You'll be appreciated.
Thank you.
know,
Thank you.
Anyhow, brother, you stay strong. Hang in there. I'm gonna keep over your shoulder. I'm gonna keep looking, because you're on the right. You got it going on. You're right. And you ain't never been defeated. Hey, I have to call you champ too, because you ain't never been defeated.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
right. Okay,
that
brother.
was
All right,
TikTok affiliate Drake, everybody. TikTok.
Yeah, come see me.
Yes, TikTok affiliate Drake. I guess he goes live. Do you go live?
Yeah, I do from time to time.
Okay.
I do from time to time.
Check him
yeah.
out check him out and see what he's got to say. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much.
Take care, brother.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Anyways,
What's up?
What you got there, man?
Hey, what that last guy? I'm a Christian. What that last guy might have been referring to, I sort of agree with, is that like it teaches in Scripture that the law is written on our hearts, right? So that each person, kind of like your own conscience, is basically directive from God. So if you're following what your heart's telling you to do, that you basically by default are listening to the Creator. There's, you know, have you ever heard that?
Elaborate.
So this would be like the anti-free will position, that like all things are actually happening. Like there's no rogue molecule in the universe. Like everything is actually happening just as planned. Every moment, every conversation, everything is actually going just according to plan, just as it's supposed to be. You never heard that?
I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't more tacked on to the word conscious in there. Conscience. So, anyways.
No, well,
what do you got on Jesus and Paul, though? What do you got on Jesus and Paul?
So you don't think they existed at all, even like the men themselves, the human beings, Jesus of Nazareth and Paul or Saul of Tarsus?
What about him?
You don't think your position is like the human beings themselves did not exist?
Correct.
Okay. Don't most even secular scholars these days even acknowledge, maybe not as much Paul, but that Jesus the person definitely existed as a figure?
Sure.
Just the same as like Alexander the Great or Caesar or
sure.
Any of these other historical figures. Like we've got just as much writing, if not more, about like this is basically the most popular human that's ever existed.
I
right?
wouldn't say he definitely existed, but they definitely say that, or the scholars generally will say that he likely existed, probably existed, or they don't have a problem with him existing. There's going to be religious scholars that say he definitely existed. There's a handful of non-religious ones who say he definitely did, but the majority just kind of go with he likely did, probably did.
Okay. But what's the evidence that they didn't exist? I guess I'll ask you that.
Anachronisms, things in the story that don't line up with place and time.
Okay. And even though some of these things have definitely over the years been revealed right as true, like some of these names, places, times, like this is kind of the way that they've decided what books are in the canon and what are not, or based off of like the names that are used and dates and locations and things like that, correct?
I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I really don't.
Well, like you hear the popular narrative that like the Council of Nicaea happened and certain books were cut out because they didn't fit, what they wanted to say.
What the Council of Nicaea did.
I know that. I'm just saying. I'm just addressing that general misconception or that general idea. I won't even call it a misconception that like the canon had something to do with like why the canon was compiled had something to do with what they wanted to say, whereas in reality the canon came from like what books could be verified the most, and then today that we see that like the books that are in canon are the ones that can kind of be verified by two places and times and names and birth records and things like that.
Birth record. What are you talking about? What are you? Give me an example of something that can be like connected to like birth records and names and places.
Okay, well, for example, Matthew and Luke both start with genealogies, right?
No. I mean, there's
no.
Luke's genealogy doesn't happen until Luke 3.
Okay, well,
like halfway
I say
through
start, but I loosely say start. But yeah, they both have genealogies present.
Yeah.
Well, back
they
then,
contradict each other, but sure.
Well, one is from Mary's bloodline and one is from Joseph's. So I don't know how they contradict each other. But
Now here's Matthew 1. It goes all the way down to right here. Who's it go down to? Joseph, right here, right? Jacob, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary. So it goes Joseph, right? Right?
Right.
Okay. Here's Luke. Jesus was about 30 years old when he began his work. He was the son, as was thought, of Joseph, son of Heli. So is his dad Heli, or is Joseph's father Jacob? They contradict, and neither one of them go to Mary. So no. In fact, the Proto-Evangelion of James, which shows up about 2nd to 3rd century or so, has completely different parents for Mary. His name is Eleazar.
Yeah. Hey, 1 second. Sorry, my kids are here. My point is.
Well, hold up. You had made a point that the genealogies, one of them goes to Mary. Which one goes to Mary? Is it the one that says Joseph or the one that says Joseph?
I think what I'm really trying to talk about is how like Luke's gospel in general seems to have more of its information from people who were close to Mary, whereas Matthew's seems to be have information from people that were close to Mary.
Genealogy is for Mary? Because
this is obviously
Luke
just
straight up says the word son.
I'm saying in general, the Gospels in general, the facts that are gathered, like that's why you have more of a women's perspective in Luke, and you see more about the women in Luke.
What? What are you talking about?
In general,
the Gospel of Luke says that Jesus is born during a census that Joseph and Mary go to, which we know about, and it happens in 6 CE. And then it says in this same verse, it says Jesus was about 30 years old when he began his work. And if he dies around the age of 33, then what year is that if he's born in 6?
What do you mean?
If Jesus dies at the age of 33, then roughly what year is that if he's born in 6?
It's my position that he died in AD 27.
Well, that wouldn't make a lot of sense now, would it?
It only makes sense. AD 27.
If Jesus is born in 6, according to the census of Quirinius, and Quirinius isn't even reigning until 6, and he definitely does his census in 6 because we have actual written proof of it. So that would mean that if he begins his ministry at around 30 years old, then he would start his ministry around the year 36. If Jesus died in 27, you're off by 9 years, and he's not even dead yet.
So the reason I say 27 actually is all about the day that he died. So we're kind of getting in the weeds on that. I'd like to get back to the genealogies, and the reason I was actually bringing the genealogies up.
Unfortunately, I don't know what you're talking about, because if Luke says that he was born in 6 CE, which is when the census of Quirinius is, which is what he's talking about there, then this doesn't make any sense. If he dies in 27, then he died at the age of 21, according to Luke. but he's about 30 when he begins his work. So what are you talking about?
Well, I actually started talking about the genealogies.
Well, I mean,
there's a lot of
then you
things.
tried to
here's
start.
the
Then
thing.
you tried to pivot once I showed that the genealogies don't actually line up with what you said. You said one
Because-
of them goes to Mary, and then you can't pick which one because they both say Joseph. And then whenever you wanted to
Okay.
pivot away from that, you said that Luke was from a woman's perspective, and you
Not
want to go
totally.
with Luke.
Okay.
But Luke
What
doesn't
I'm
even
actually
line
trying-
up with history. I mean, hell, if Jesus is 30 when he begins his work and dies at the age of 33, that would place the year that he's crucified around 39, which is 3 years after Pilate is dismissed, because Pilate is dismissed in 36. So Luke, so which one is it?
Listen,
does Jesus die in the year 39, which is after Pilate, or does he die
Can I
in the year
make a
27,
point?
which is
Can
before?
Can I tell you my point first?
No, you can address
No,
the questions
okay.
that I asked, because I've asked you
I
multiple
don't know.
questions and you just
I don't
kind
know.
of
I don't get this dig. I don't dig this deep into the facts and
What
the
are you
actual
talking
details.
about? You tried to say the day that Jesus was crucified. You dig deep. It's just you've never actually found the problems and you never actually addressed them. When Luke says that he's 30 years old, but he also says he's born during the census of Quirinius, how do you justify that with saying, hey, Jesus was crucified in 27? How does that happen?
I think the reason he died in 27 is because
I don't care about the reason why he dies in 27. How do you justify the problem?
I justify everything from I work everything from what I know is true first and backwards from the truth.
Sweet.
Okay.
So
I don't start
Jesus is
from,
born during the
I don't
census
start
of who?
from something that's shaky and then work towards something that's not.
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Awesome. So you absolutely started from something that's shaky because you don't know when Jesus was crucified. You also don't know what age he was when he died. So
I
you're
do
starting
know
from
when he
something
was
shaky.
crucified, but I don't know
You
exactly.
don't.
I don't know exactly when he was
Okay.
born.
So, well, this says that he's born during the census of Quirinius, the governor of Syria. Correct?
Yeah, but Matthew
Okay.
disagrees.
I don't give a shit. We're talking about Luke at this point. If you
Okay,
want to
fair.
if you want to say that he disagrees, unfortunately he disagrees by 10 years. So there's all kinds of problems. But nevertheless,
Yeah,
Quirinius
exactly.
is the governor of Syria here. All right. And that means that this is when Quirinius actually starts his reign. Quirinius has a census when he starts taking his reign as the governor of Syria. This happens in 6 CE. The Gospel of Luke uses the census of Quirinius to date the birth of Jesus, but also cites the time of Herod the Great, while the Gospel of Matthew only references Herod, which is what you talked about earlier, sort of, kind of. Most critical scholars agree that Luke is in error, while some religious scholars have attempted to defend the Gospel, sometimes invoking unproven claims. Nevertheless, according to Luke, Jesus is born in 6 at earliest, and then he begins his ministry at the age of 30, which would be 36, roughly. So how did you get to, or will you be willing to admit that the Gospel of Luke does not line up with what you know to be true?
If the Gospel of Luke actually is saying that he didn't die in AD 27, then I would say that the Gospel of Luke is incorrect
Is the
about
Gospel
that.
of Luke, not if, the Gospel of Luke says
I don't
that he was
know.
born during the census of
Here's the
Quirinius,
thing,
which
I
happens
do trust you.
Okay.
Here's the thing, I trust you to a certain extent, but
Okay, listen,
I don't know
listen,
exactly where you're
listen.
sourcing things
Okay,
from,
cool,
so
sweet.
I'm not going to sit here and just say what,
All right,
accept
here,
everything you say
this
is
is what
total
we're gonna
truth.
do.
But yeah, I'll grant you that if you're
When
true, then yeah, sure.
did Quirinius become governor of Syria? 6. He was the legate governor of Syria from 6 to 12. All right. Even gotquestions.org says 6 CE. So, a Christian website is telling you that he starts his reign.
Christian
in
websites
6.
say all kinds of stuff that I don't adhere to.
Okay,
so that's not going to get you very far
there's
with me.
not a
Like,
single website that's going to tell you that he became the governor at some other point or did the census in some other point.
Okay.
It's not a thing. So
you can be right, bro. I don't
Okay.
need
Then
to be
I'm
correct
asking you a
about that.
question here. How do you
Okay.
justify this? Because if Luke says that he's born during the census of Quirinius, which we know happens in 6, and then it says that he starts his ministry at roughly 30, then that would be roughly 36 when he starts his ministry, not sometime before 27.
So somebody's wrong.
Okay.
Right?
Well, it's either you, the Gospel of Luke, or both.
Could be both.
Okay. I'm well aware that it could be. So which one would you like to go with?
I'm not like supreme. I don't know. It could be both.
Well,
I honestly
you said
never
you
dug
know
in.
that he's
I
born
haven't
in,
dug
you
into this.
said you know that he was crucified in 27. That's
Yeah,
what you
but
said.
that's all based off of when he was crucified, not when he was born. We don't have as solid facts about when he was born as we do about when he died. We just don't. He wasn't as popular
No,
when he was
in
born.
fact,
No one. He
not at
wasn't
all.
like.
No, in fact,
People
according
knew
to
way more about. He was way more famous of a figure by the time he died than he was born. You can't. You'd have to at least. I know you don't. I know you're trying to say he didn't exist at all, but if he did exist, you can't tell me that he was more popular when he was born than when he died.
Sweet.
Like,
well, there's not a single historian who ever, even the interpolated parts, talk about how he was crucified in 27. So the fact that you're saying
it's not a
we
well-known
know
thing.
this, yeah, that's because you're just pulling it out of your ass. There's no way
I'm
they
actually
actually dated to
not.
27.
No,
you
there
are.
is, but it has to do with lunar eclipses, and it has to do with the lunar calendar, and it has to do with the fact that
So
it has to do with the fact that Jesus did not die. Jesus did not die on a
would be more
Friday.
accurate then? The
He
lunar
didn't die on a
calendar?
Friday. He died on a Thursday.
Which would be more accurate then? The lunar calendar or the Gospel of Luke?
What I'm saying is, actually,
Which would be-
Matthew is what I'm pointing to for most of the information on this. But you can draw some information from his time of death from the other Gospels as well. Oh, okay.
Cool. So
hey,
I
listen,
guess because
hang on
Luke
one second. This
because
has been a
Luke
great
contradicts-
conversation. I followed you. I do want to get back into this some other time. I think you're right, bro. I'm going to dig into this some more. My kids need me, though, so I'll be back some other time. Appreciate the talk.
All right. At least he's somebody who actually like listens to when his kids need him and like hop up, as opposed to some of these people who will just like let their kids cry. It's wild. It's wild whenever we hear some of those people. All right. We do have, I think, some super chats to get to really fast. So, $5 from Art !ST that says, no way any of these Shroud proponents are VFX artists. It's called UV unwrapping and is the common practice in 3D modeling. That's a good point. That's actually a good point. In fact, that is how we ended up with the knowledge of like what the Shroud is supposed to look like there. Because someone who is a 3D or VFX artist, they actually, I think they used Blender or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But basically, the point is they were able to see that this was definitely something that used like a bas relief or whatever, which has like, it's almost like a pop, it's almost like a 3D kind of looking image or a 3D kind of artwork where it kind of pops out a little bit. And they utilized that for the actual Shroud. And then just kind of went over it with like possibly blood, animal's blood, human blood, doesn't really matter. They went over it with blood and then used an oven to make it look aged. And that's how we ended up with what we end up today. So it looks like a person because it's built off of almost like a statue kind of, but it's like a bas relief, which is just like lightly pressed in, which is why it looks the way that, or lightly popping out, which is why it looks the way that it looks without it having like brush strokes and stuff like that. So anyways, let's see. So very, very good point there, Art. $2 from Zerko Effect, who says, Jaren is doing the Lord's work, apparently. Thank you. Yeah, apparently I'm doing the Lord's work. So happy to be here, folks. $2 from Squigglin it. What an interesting name. Said Christ consciousness, daughter or Orthodox son. Oh my God. Oh, that is funny. Okay. Okay. Damn. I don't even know how to answer that one. Christ consciousness, daughter or Orthodox son. Oh, can we choose neither? Is that possible? Is that possible? Okay. I do like the twist on a otherwise horrible and distasteful meme, but I do like this twist. Man, an Orthodox son or a Christ consciousness daughter. Damn. Oh man. I think I'm gonna have to go with an Orthodox son. I think I'd have to go with an Orthodox son, but only because I'm imagining like my kids and like, no, not my daughter, please. I don't want her to be crazy. So, anyways, My son, yeah, I think I could talk him out of it. I think I could talk him out of it. I think that we could have at least some good conversations. Anyways, let's see. And then $4.99 from Elope Nope. Thank you very, very much. Said, put a cross in the background and I bet you will get more callers and views and I get more dopamine. Win-win. Maybe I should put a big old cross or something like that, like right there. That'd be funny. I mean, it'd be funny. Maybe I can just put that on the marker board. There we go. Yeah, I'll get a marker board and I'll put it back up there. I think that's what I need to do. I think that's what I need. An upside down cross. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. Let's see. Do backgrounds like Joel. See, yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, as soon as I do a background like Joel does or something like that, all he's gonna do is he's gonna be in here and he's gonna be like, "You're copying me." that was actually my my impression. That was me trying to do an impression of Joel. That was it. Like, I know that didn't sound much like him, but that was my attempt. All right. He may be in the chat. He may be in the chat just watching this. He probably is. Joel tends to lurk. Oh, no, I don't think he's in there. He's not in there. All right. Let's see. We got another person coming up. We got someone else coming up here.
How you doing, fella?
What's going on? Blues Traveler.
So that's interesting. So you don't think that Jesus or Paul existed?
Yes. Even the natural versions of Jesus and Paul, as presented by the New Testament, as well as the Quran and the Book of Mormon, did not exist.
Okay. I mean, but we do have outside sources outside of Christianity that do mention them.
We have outside sources outside Christianity that mentions Paul.
Yes. I'll be glad to send you some information.
Hold
How
up.
can I read? How can I read?
Hold up. Everybody in the chat, you know what time it is.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Please. Oh, and he's gone. I was getting ready. I was getting it all ready and everything like that, and he decided to run. Yeah, we got evidence for Paul. I'd be glad to send you some. Oh shit, you want it now? Oh, see ya. Oh man, what a chump. What's for lunch? For lunch we've got rice, some pita, some very good chicken, and like a cucumber salad. There's a bunch of cucumbers with feta cheese on it. Tastes good. Wait, I went hard mode. What the fuck? Yeah. Well, unfortunately, not everybody is cut out for hard mode. There's a fly. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. There's a fly. I don't know where it came from, but it was bothering me earlier. I don't know if anybody saw the fly, but if you see the fly, you let me know. That fly was... He's pissing me off. Add an upside down cross in the back. No. If add that, then it's just gonna look all weird. No. Jeff Goldblum. No, not the fly. It's me. I'm the fly. What's going on, Jenny?
Hi, just trying to understand the prompt.
What do you mean?
I saw something down at the bottom. It says something Christ before Jesus. So do
Oh
you
yeah,
not
well
believe?
yeah, that's the name of the project, the name of my username, and the
Oh.
book from me and my data science co-partner. But anyways,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's just Jesus and Paul. Even the natural versions, as presented by the New Testament, did not exist.
Yeah, because some people believe, like I've been on some panels where they say that Yahweh, it's Yahweh, not Jesus. And I just kind of think, well, it's just a name. It's only Jesus is just a name like that's been translated in Greek. So to me, it's the same thing. I didn't know if that's what was meant by that, but yeah, for me, I do believe it just because well, I'm Catholic and I kind of go back to the church houses. And lately I've been the church houses in Rome. You know, yeah, they came before the basilicas, which were built. Sometimes there were some basilicas that were built on top of these church houses, where people kind of practiced the breaking of the bread that was done
Right.
in the story
Yeah.
for like a long time before
So as far
the
as those church
second or
houses
third
goes,
century.
we don't have any that date to the first century. There's no evidence that they date there.
Yeah, well, there's some locations in Rome. I think there's some information where people also believe that Peter
No,
went
that's
to
outside of Rome.
Rome.
That's like some place that's like it's out in more rural area, but it doesn't say
Mhm.
Peter's name or anything like that in the first century part of it. What it says is it says Peter's name in the fourth century part of it.
Yeah, I know that that's Peter, that's not Paul, but yeah. So
Well,
anyway,
either
that's
way, it
kind of
doesn't
where.
date to the first century. Like I know what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
we don't have anything from the New Testament, no inscriptions, or nothing from Christianity really, like that's presented in the New Testament, if you will, from the first century. That's the issue. Like we don't have anything that says
Uh-huh.
Peter on it. We don't have anything as far as like a building goes. No archaeological evidence, I guess, of like
Yeah.
the like
I think there's
Bible's version of
external
Christianity.
things. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think there's some external things from to the Bible, like Irenaeus, I think, wrote about Peter. And there's like Gnostics, where I think Irenaeus wrote about those individuals who believed in Christ. It's like a totally different type of Christianity. I mean, I'm personally Catholic, so lately I've been diving into a little bit about these church houses that were built before these basilicas were built on top of them, because when I read a little about the history, it was very like violent time where I think they were unaliving a lot of both Christian and non-Christian people. And I don't think they would have been called Christian initially in the first century either, because a lot of those individuals were Jewish people who I guess would have converted because they were initially Jewish, like this individual Jesus anyway. But that's kind of like what I'm diving into now. And not about Paul. That's more like about Peter and stuff like that, and just kind of some of the
Right.
history.
I mean, I know that you're diving into that, but that's 100% just Catholic tradition. There's no actual evidence of that.
What's
and
that?
I know that you're diving into it, but that's 100% Catholic tradition. It's not. There's no evidence. There's no real evidence that any of this stuff, like these house churches and stuff like that, existed in the first century in the way that the New
Yeah.
Testament is presenting it,
Yeah,
or the way
that's
that the
why,
Catholics
see,
presented it, at least.
for me, I'm looking at that because because there was this Catholic tradition,
Mhm.
that kind of went way back, and these individuals were doing this. I'm kind of just thinking like, why were these people practicing this breaking of bread, you know, based on this other individual that was said to do this Last Supper, and they kind of continued it on, because I go to mass myself sometimes, right? And I notice how like they kind of like it's a very ritual thing, like they always do the same stuff like over. So when I was looking at this and researching it, I discovered that this started way back. In the first and second century, before they built these basilicas or churches, they were doing it in the homes.
It
And I think
started
the reason
before
why,
that.
pardon?
Okay. So, okay. Listen, the Catholic Church will tell you that that these traditions go back to like the first century and stuff like that. There's no evidence that it goes back to that time period from like from what the Catholics say, like their version of it, if that makes sense. But like in the second century, we have writings from Justin Martyr, who was like an early church father, one of the most prolific writers of Christianity there in the second century. And he explains that the Eucharist, like what you're talking about, with like the breaking of bread and everything like that, and the wine, that predates the supposed birth of Jesus. Other mystery cults were doing it. That concept is not something that suddenly pops up in the first century because Jesus instituted it. No, like we have Christians admitting that it goes back before then. and we have evidence of that.
Oh, I haven't actually seen that, but I
So
did find some names of people.
Okay.
Actual people, yeah. I don't actually have it with me. It's on my computer, but I did find some names of actual human beings who were doing this because of Jesus in the first century. One of them is actually a woman. I have actual names of people. I can pull it up
have
if my
anybody in
computer
the
will
first
turn on.
century. We don't have the names of any Christians in the first century.
Yeah, I did. You could probably
Unless
try
you're just
Googling it, but
accepting just church tradition, there's no evidence of any Christians' names in the first century. That's
yeah, well, that's what it is. It's tradition of actual human beings that were practicing this, and they were Christian people, in Rome. I let me see if I could turn my
I mean,
computer on.
but it's like from Catholics, right? It's not like from actual like
Catholic,
evidence
yeah.
or anything. Yeah, like.
Well, I don't even have my
but what
computer. I don't know where it is.
What evidence
That's
are they
good.
presenting? Are they saying here's a manuscript? Or are they saying here's a? What are they
Okay,
saying?
so yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that. I'd have to. I can't even find my computer. I'll join that back another time. But I think one of them is. Do you know who Irenaeus is? Apparently, he wrote about certain people. Do you know this man named Irenaeus?
Yes, he writes in
Okay.
180 to 185.
185.
Yep, 180 to 185 is when he's writing. So the end of the second century is when he's writing.
Okay, I think he wrote a different of like more than one thing, right? Or like a bunch of different literature.
Yeah, he writes different things. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, it might be based on that too, but anyway, I'll drop down now because I actually have to. I'll come back. I'll try to keep your link, but I just I have to get my computer to give you the actual names. But I can message you. I'll try messaging you as well with the names, you
Gotcha.
know, of the ones I found. And anyway, thanks for talking.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you.
Nice to talk. Okay, bye bye.
Let's see. We've got someone else who's coming up here. I see that damn fly. Just give me a second, guys.
Hey, man, you going to play a fucking sound effect in my ear, you stupid motherfucker? You're dead behind the ears, you stupid bastard. Look at you, you demon-possessed little motherfucker.
That was weird. All right. Well, didn't get that fly. Didn't try to get to him.
Bro, how do you find people like that, dude?
Say what?
How do you find people like that?
I don't remember what happened. All right, Jan, what you got?
We were talking a second ago. I left. My kids were needing some stuff.
Yep.
I don't remember. We were talking about genealogies. There was a point. We were trying to get to a point, and we never got there. That's why I came back. But you probably talked to a few people since then.
Yeah, I remember. So you had first said that there's genealogies there in Matthew and Luke.
Sure.
I then
Yeah.
say that contradicts. You said they don't contradict because one goes to Mary. I pointed out that they both go to Joseph. You decided to pivot and start talking about other
I don't
things,
want to.
And you said that Luke was like more like in like connected to what Mary had said, but apparently not, because it ends up giving a timeline that doesn't make any sense and doesn't line up with what you say. And so yeah, that's about where we left.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Well, I'm gonna try and shoot from the hip. I don't want to be the guy that's just like trying to search and Google shit.
So really quick, now that you understand that Matthew is maybe the only one that lines up with your idea of like Jesus.
Matthew that would make sense. Matthew is the one I've studied in depth the most of the four.
That means that your statement that Luke had talked to Mary and was like giving a more of like Mary's perspective to a woman's perspective, is just bullshit. Like you just kind of made that up.
Okay, no, I didn't make it up. Can I at least like explain kind of where I get some of that?
To Mary?
Can I explain where I get some of that?
Sure. I mean, you've already told us that Luke doesn't line up with what you know about history. So, I mean, I guess whatever you're about to say is still bullshit ultimately. But where does it say that? Where are you getting the idea? That
I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn from you here and like chill and have a cool conversation.
I know. Yeah. But what you're saying ultimately is that Luke does not line up with history as you know it, which means that regardless of where Luke is getting his information, it's still wrong. So where are you getting the idea that Luke is getting it from Mary? I'm interested in hearing it, but it's not going to help.
Because in the genealogies, I'm going to try and shoot from the hip here. Yes, they have in the genealogies. If you pull up like the one in Matthew and the one in Luke, they do have some different names. But it's my understanding that like they didn't like it was kind of Jewish tradition or just maybe cultural tradition in general that you didn't always you didn't include women's names in the genealogies. So that's why like I think pull up Luke's
Yeah,
genealogy.
so
I think
that's
somewhere in
what we're
there,
looking at. So when it says
somewhere
Joseph, son of Heli, is that really Mary?
no, that's Heli is actually Mary's father, and that would be his
Okay, so
stepson.
that's why Joseph. That wouldn't
That's
make
why
any
in
sense.
Matthew's genealogy
Joseph's
it says Joseph has a
Joseph
different
is the
father.
stepson. He's the stepson of
I'm not going to
his
say
wife's
stepson.
father.
I'm going to say son-in-law.
No.
Son-in-law,
No.
not
So
stepson.
literally every time it says son, it means son, except for this one time. You know what that's called? That's called special.
I'm not
pleading.
saying every time. It's not every time. It's some of the times.
Where in here? Where in? Okay. So of course,
anytime
Seth is
the
the
name. So
stepson of Adam, right?
if you pull up,
Seth
pull
is
up
the
Matthew's,
stepson of Adam, right?
okay, no,
Okay. Enos is the stepson of Seth, right? Or the
No.
son-in-law of Seth, right?
I don't know. No,
He's not. Right over here, we've got. Okay,
gonna let
right
you
over here
finish,
we
so
got
keep going.
Boaz. Obed is the son-in-law of Boaz, right?
I actually am not sure. Some of these
No,
are
he's
and some of
not.
these are not.
David
Some of
is
these
the
are and some of these are
son-in-law of
not.
Jesse, right?
Actually, to David, no, we're not at that point yet. To David, because the point here is to
right
show
here it's
that both.
David. David is the stepson of Jesse, right?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, Nathan is the stepson or the son-in-law of David, right?
I don't know.
No, according to the Bible, this is a child of David. So yeah, whenever this says son, in
So now go to
literally
Matthew.
every instance of this, no, we're not in Matthew, dude. We're looking at Luke because
We
you're
were
about to
talking
give
about
me-
the contradictions between the
No, we're
genealogies
talking
and
about
Matthew.
how you know Luke interviewed Mary and was writing from a woman's perspective. So that
I'm
being
saying
said,
there's
every
more
time it
than
says
just- there's
son,
more than
every
just
time
the
it says
genealogy
son,
to
it means
allude to
son,
that.
except for this time here, because you can't fathom the idea that these people are contradicting each other. Like this has
not
to
just
mean
that one.
this has to mean son-in-law.
It's not just that one.
Okay,
It's
what
some of
other
them.
ones does it say son-in-law? And you know that.
I don't know for sure. I'm not an expert in it.
Well,
And
literally,
and
no
again,
one
I
else
even
ever tries
admitted
to claim that any of these mean son-in-law.
I even admitted that I haven't studied Luke as in depth as I've studied Matthew.
Well, you
But
made some
now if
claims
you'll-
earlier about how Luke is like he interviewed Mary, and this is coming from a woman's perspective. So
Yeah,
where
there
are you getting
are
that
a lot of details throughout the Gospel of Luke
what?
that seem to come from a woman's perspective.
Like what?
I can't shoot you any off the hip right now. I mean, I don't want to play the game where I sit here and Google stuff and try to find
Listen,
supporting
man,
arguments.
at the end of the day, you think that Luke does not line up with history, so we're going to have to toss out Luke because it's not going to
So-
make any sense.
but you're
Because
still not ever
Luke
letting me
says that
get to
Jesus,
the point.
Luke says that Jesus starts his ministry 9 years after you think Jesus died.
Right.
So that can't be real then. It can't be trusted.
So, okay. So then, can I make my point then?
Your point about what?
Well, like I'm conceding to you that some of these facts are probably true and some of these are probably false. I'm conceding
How
that
did
to
you
you. I'm
determine
not
which
trying
ones
to
are true
argue.
and which ones are false in Luke?
I actually haven't personally determined all of which ones
See,
are true or
that's
false.
how it works. That's called special pleading. You're saying some of them are true, even though the only ones that we've gone over are false, and you can't show me how any of the others are true. You're just kind of you're just treating it like a buffet. You're just saying this is real, this isn't,
No.
without any really rhyme or reason.
No, what I'm trying to do is get to the point that,
Well, what in
for
Luke did
example,
you
and I'm
determine
sure,
is real?
Okay, the point I'm trying to make is,
What in Luke?
and I'm
did
sure
you
you've heard
determine is
this
real?
before. If you go to a crime scene and you ask 5 people to tell a
What in
story,
Luke did you determine is real? And by the way, what you're about to say is still dog shit, because what an actual detective is going to do is going to dig in and try to figure out what is real and what is
Yeah,
false.
exactly.
Whenever
Yeah.
2 people give things. So where in Luke did you determine that some of it is real?
What do you mean?
You said that some of it is real, some of it is false, or some of it is
I would
true,
say
some of
that
it
the
is false.
meta narrative is what's real.
Okay. And how did you determine that?
I've determined that by studying and
By
and-
studying
and-
Luke, something
and
that
being
says that Jesus was starting
Not
his
just
ministry 9
Luke.
years after you think he died?
really the point I'm trying to get to is that I don't have evidence for you, and I don't need evidence for myself.
Well, that's the
And-
point. Yeah, you don't care
Yeah.
about whether or not what you believe is actually true. You just believe something without evidence, which is not a
No.
very good thing to do.
That's not it, but I
Yeah,
just think
I mean, you
that-
literally just said, "I don't need evidence for my point," or "I don't need evidence for me." That's what you said.
I don't need evidence for you.
No, you said you don't have evidence
Like
for
things,
me,
like
and you
things,
said
like
you don't have evidence for yourself,
I
or
have
you don't
things and
need evidence
evidence
for
in
yourself.
my life that make me believe the meta narrative of Scripture is true, but those things are not gonna convince you, and I don't ever
Cool.
try to use
So
those
what
things
you
to
tried to do
convince
earlier
other
is you
people.
tried to
But
tell me the exact year that Jesus was crucified, because you do
yes,
care about the history whenever you think that you have a good idea. We don't have the
well,
exact
that's not
year. That's
my
just
idea.
bullshit, and you just
That's
pulled
not
it out of
my
your ass. And
idea.
a lunar eclipse does not actually do that. A
It's
lunar
not
eclipse does
just a
not
lunar
provide darkness.
eclipse.
But I
It's
mean, you mentioned it earlier, and you're trying to
I
pull that
mentioned it,
into
but you
it.
didn't let
That
me.
being
You
said,
didn't
you
let
are
me
trying to
flesh out
connect
the
this to
idea.
history without any evidence of history. That's the
There
thing.
is, but there are some historical facts
Okay, then
in the Bible. We know
what
this.
in Luke lines up with history then? What lines up with history? What parts of Luke are true?
I would say all of it's true.
Okay. So Jesus started his ministry in 36?
I would say that the overall story and things that
You
happened
just said
all
all of it
happened.
was true.
Yeah, in a loose way. Like I
Okay,
don't need
so
all the
then
details and
no,
facts
it's
to
not
be
true.
true from 2,000 years ago.
Cool. So
You know what I
yes or
mean?
no, did Jesus start his ministry in roughly the year 36? Yes or no?
I would say no.
Okay, so that means it's not true. That's how that works. Yeah. See
Right.
how we can actually use terms pretty easily? Like you don't have to be intellectually dishonest. You don't have to be disingenuous this entire time. Like you
I'm
can
not trying to be
actually say that
disingenuous.
Luke is wrong. That's perfectly fine, dude.
Yeah,
Like
Luke
I've
can
been
be
trying
wrong
to show
about some
you
things.
time and
I
time
think all the
again
gospels are
that
wrong
Luke
about
is
some
wrong,
things.
and you
Yeah.
can't fathom the idea that Luke is wrong.
I've
So
just said a
you
million
just
times to you that there's things it's wrong about. I've said that
okay,
from the
but you
beginning.
can't show me
I'm
anything
not the
that's
kind of Christian that needs every detail in here to be like.
you said that there's things that are wrong with it, but then you also said that all of it is true, is what you said. Those are
The meta
contradictory
narrative,
statements.
the story
So
is a
that's
true
not all of
story.
it then.
What,
You
I
said,
mean,
and I quote, all of it is true.
so it's true as in it's a true accounting. That's
Okay,
what I mean
so
when I say
then
that.
it's a count that
If the
says that
details,
Jesus.
I could give a
So
true
it's a
accounting of
count.
a.
So it's a
I
count
could
that says
tell
that
you.
Jesus starts his ministry in 36
Listen,
is
I could
true.
tell you a true accounting of my day yesterday, and it be a true accounting, and me be wrong about details of it.
So then it's not
100%.
all true. That's how
Yeah,
the word true works, man.
but the accounting, the retelling, it was an honest retelling and an honest accounting from me myself. I'm not trying to lie about a detail. I just got some shit wrong, right? Like
Okay, then
it's
you
still a
wouldn't be
true,
able to
it's still a
say
true
it's all
account.
true.
It's still a true account, but
No,
the
it's
details
not.
aren't all true.
No, it is your account of what happened, but some of
Yes.
it is going
Okay,
to be
fine. I'll
wrong
concede.
because
I'll
it's
concede
not
that.
all
You're right.
true.
I'll stop using that word. You're right. I'll concede that. That will be my account. This is Luke's account. I believe it's an honest account from Luke. It doesn't have to all be true. Yes, I will concede that to you. I got no problem conceding that.
Okay, so how did you determine that some of it is true?
I haven't yet determined that which parts are honestly all true and which parts are not.
So then don't make any positive claims that some of it is true.
Some of it is, and some parts
Okay,
I do
prove
know
it.
are, but I don't know all of the
See
parts
how
that are
whenever you
not.
make positive claims, like you're saying, oh, some of it is true, I'm going to ask you for evidence. What's
Okay.
the evidence for it?
The reason that I believe that the genealogies stand up, even though they're contradictory, even though they seem contradictory, is because we don't have, like, the Jewish people. The easiest thing for them to attack about the Gospels would have been these genealogies. This is the point I was trying to start from the beginning.
Yeah, dude.
You could have gone to any synagogue, or you could have gone to any
later
place.
church fathers end up saying that we shouldn't obsess over endless genealogies.
Right, and I agree. But back then, when the temple was still standing
That's
until
because
70
they're
AD,
bullshit.
they could have gone. Anyone could have gone to these temples and argued these genealogies, but no one did. We don't have records of them. No one ever using this as a reason to refute the prophetic claims. That would have been the easiest thing for them to refute.
I don't know what the fuck you're saying, because that's immediately what the Jews
Because there were
tried
tons
to
of
say in
people.
the Babylonian Talmud, is that he was not the son of Joseph.
Right, but no one could.
So in other words,
you could have
what
actually
you're saying
proven that back
what you're
then
saying
with the
that we would
genealogy.
expect to see is exactly what we end up seeing.
Like today, we don't have the genealogies that they had back then. They could have went and walked in and refuted any of this stuff, but no one did. No one
What
did.
do you mean? That's exactly what the Babylonian
genealogy.
Talmud does.
They
You
say
just
it.
admitted that.
What?
It says that he's not a son of Joseph. It says
200
that he's
years
the son of
later. 200
Okay.
years later, yeah, but the
That's
temple was
because
gone by
Jesus
then.
didn't
They
exist
didn't
in the
have the
first
records
century.
by then.
That's because
Yeah.
Jesus didn't exist in the first century. No one's going to be walking around saying, oh, hey, I'm going to refute this text that isn't a thing. Show me evidence that these texts that claim these genealogies were written in the 1st century.
We definitely know they were written in the 1st century.
How? How do we
Matthew's
know
the
that
oldest
Luke was-
one. The reason I've
How do we know
studied
Matthew
Matthew
was
the
written in
most
the
is
1st
because
century?
we know because we have translations to it in Aramaic and in
No, we don't.
and in Hebrew, whereas we don't in the others.
We
They're
do
not original.
I
I'm
want you
not
to
going to
give.
try
I
to
want you to give
claim.
me the
I'm not going to
reference
try to
number. I
claim.
want you to give me the reference number for the Aramaic translation of Matthew that dates to the 1st century.
Yeah, I'm not going to claim we have them earlier than the Greek ones. The earliest ones we have are definitely
I
Greek.
want you to tell me what century the earliest manuscript of Matthew in Greek we have. When does that date to?
I'm going to guess and say 5th century.
All right. So how on earth
What's the
did you
truth?
determine that Matthew is definitely written in the 1st century?
Tradition, I guess. Church
Okay,
fathers,
so
what they say,
we
like people
definitely
things
know
that
it,
are
and it's
passed
just
down.
tradition.
Things that. But well, the main
When's
reason.
the first time that the
okay.
church fathers quote Matthew? Do you know?
Let me start by saying, like what I said earlier. I like to work from what I know is true versus what I don't.
Okay.
And we do.
Well, what you know is true is just tradition. Is that what you're
I
admitting?
don't know. No, listen. What I'm trying to say about Matthew and when it was written, I
Okay.
can't tell you that I can't point to say for sure that it was written in the 1st century.
You said we
However,
definitely know it is.
Yeah, I
You
definitely
used
know
the
it
word.
is.
Okay. How?
I can't prove to you that it was because we don't have a manuscript.
So in
at
other
all.
words,
You're
you
not
don't
going
have
to
any
accept
evidence?
anything other
Sounds
than
good.
a manuscript.
So
though.
how did you
However,
definitely know that it was written in the 1st century without any evidence?
because I believe Matthew was there.
Cool.
Okay,
Well,
so I
where
think it
in
was written
Matthew
by the
does it
guy who
ever
was
say
there.
that it's written
okay?
by Matthew? I'm going to
It
go ahead and pull
doesn't,
it
but
up.
it doesn't say that.
Okay, so how do you, even if
And
Matthew was actually there, how did you determine that the Gospel of Matthew was written in the 1st century?
Well, because he would have died
Who's
at some
he?
point. Matthew.
Because you just said that we don't know if Matthew wrote this. It doesn't say that he did.
I'm saying
So
I'm
even if
gonna
Matthew
concede
was a
that,
real
like,
person
on a
who walked with
scholarly or an
Jesus,
academic level, I'm
even
conceding
if
I can't
Matthew
prove
was
that
a
Matthew
real
did.
person who walked with
Right.
Jesus, how did you determine that the Gospel of Matthew was written in the 1st century?
I believe it was written in the 1st century because it was written by a guy who was there in the 1st century, and
Where
that's
does
when
it
his
say
lifespan
that?
was.
Where does it say that? You already admitted that it's never says it's written by Matthew.
It might not say that.
Sweet. So how did you determine it was written by Matthew?
That's just kind of what I believe, man.
Yeah, sweet.
It's the earliest
you see
one.
how you
It's the
keep
first
trying
one.
to say that you're not
All
going
the
to
other
make claims without any evidence, and then you immediately just say, it's just my feelings. Like, I just believe it. I just go off of feelings. I go off tradition. I don't have any evidence, but I use things with that have evidence. Yeah. No, you
So
don't.
the other 3 gospels all seem to draw from Matthew, so that's why Matthew
No.
seems to be the earliest one.
No. In fact, that's Mark. You're still just speaking out of your ass. You don't even know like what the actual scholarship on this is. It sounds like you haven't really read at all into this, but yet you still try to claim that you're using evidence-based logic.
I didn't claim I was using evidence-based logic for my faith.
Yeah, because you said that you.
I'm still
can
kind of
only-
seeking
you
like
only
what's,
say things
what
are
you
true
have
when you know
evidence
that they're
for or
true,
not.
and then you ended up saying that we just have tradition that places Matthew in the 1st century, and you just believe it.
Okay.
And you
Look.
also admitted that you don't have any evidence for Matthew being written by Matthew or
I don't
being
have
written
any
in the
for
1st century.
you right now because I'm not trying to sit here and like just.
Do you
like
think
you
that we
clearly
have
know
any evidence
more.
of Matthew in the
You
1st century?
clearly know more than the historicity.
All right, then maybe
of the
you should
Bible
listen to
than
me when we say and
I
when
am.
I tell
I'm
you
trying
that
to learn.
Matthew
I'm trying
is
to learn stuff from
sweet.
you here, bro.
Then
Like,
don't say shit that you don't know anything about. Then I can tell, and everybody watching this can tell, you don't know shit about Matthew. You don't know shit about the New Testament. You don't know shit about this stuff. But you're making a whole bunch of claims. If you were here to learn, then ask questions. Matthew was not written in the 1st century. It was written in the 2nd century. We don't have shit to prove that Matthew was written in the 1st century, let alone definitely written in the 1st century, as you claimed. We don't have any evidence of any of the New
I
Testament in
don't
the
think
1st
it.
century.
I don't think it was definitely written in the 1st century.
That's what you said earlier.
I don't have any
You
proof
said
of
that it
that.
was definitely written in the 1st century, and then the
I
first.
said I believe that it was because that's when his lifespan was,
Did
and
you
that
say
just
the
makes
word
sense.
definitely when you said
That's
that it
just-
was written in the 1st century?
I probably did. I'm sorry. I'll concede.
Yeah.
I should not have
You
spoken
keep,
that
yeah,
way.
see, this is the second time you've had to see this. You talk out of your ass
I think you and I
constantly.
would have a. I'm sorry. I think you and I would have a better talk one on one. I'm just not good at this live
We're
thing.
one-on-one. We're
I do
one-on-one.
genuinely want to learn stuff, like, and see what you know.
No,
and
you
like,
don't, because you're
see what
talking
lines
out of
up
your
with-
ass. You're using terms like definitely. You're using terms like all true. Like,
And then I'm
no.
conceding to you when you're showing me that there's things I'm saying that are like kind of
Yeah,
backwards.
so
in my
maybe you
faith,
should
but-
ask questions as opposed to making statements about things you don't know anything about.
Okay, well, my question is, what's your point? Like, is there a point to what your prompt is here?
Yeah.
What is it?
Society is benefited if we believe as many true things as possible and stop believing as many false things as possible. Because when we believe false things, we end up with weird situations where people make asinine claims like yourself, reaching up into the chocolate starfish up to the elbow and just pulling shit out and saying, hey, this is what I believe, so I guess this is real. And then other people pick up on it and they just continue on. No,
So I was an atheist for 35 years, bro. Like, this is
we
not.
need to base our
I'm not
beliefs
just an
off of things we
indoctrinated.
actually have evidence for. And you have admitted multiple times that what you have doesn't have any evidence, and multiple times that what you believe is simply based off of just tradition or just how you feel
Well,
or
it's definitely not
what you just
tradition.
want to exist. All right.
It's
There's
definitely not
no evidence
tradition.
for the things that you have stated, and this is problematic because it doesn't just apply to religion or Christianity. It also applies to the world. It applies to politics. It applies to how we treat each other. When we
I agree.
believe absurdities, we commit atrocities, and the things that you are doing here on a small scale can absolutely be blown up on a large scale and be detrimental to society. You are just making claims and trying to state them as if they're true when you have nothing to back them up.
Well,
Nothing.
okay. Listen,
That's
I was
how
never coming in
that's how we
here.
end up with Mango Mussolini in
I was
office.
never coming here to try and offer you like empirical, scientific, or historical evidence
Dude, you
to
tried
refute
to
anything you're
claim that
saying.
lunar calendar somehow proves that Jesus was crucified in 27.
It's
You
not
don't even
just the
know what a
lunar calendar.
lunar eclipse actually does because it
It's
doesn't make
not.
shit
It's not
dark.
just the lunar calendar. It's not just that. It's the
But,
fact that he
but
died
you're
on
trying to
Thursday.
use something
It wasn't a
scientific
double
to try to
Sabbath.
prove that Jesus was crucified in 27, correct?
Yeah, dude, this is a big thing.
Correct?
Yes, but listen,
Okay, so
can
yeah,
we?
you came in here trying to say, oh, I have scientific proof of XYZ, and now you're trying to back out of that because you realize
No,
that it doesn't line up.
no. What I'm trying to say is, I was an atheist for my entire life,
I don't
bro,
give a
until I
shit
was
if you're an
36.
atheist or not. Atheists
Can you just
suck.
hear my point?
No,
All I'm
because you're
trying to
just
say
constantly
is,
talking about meta. Give me the evidence that Jesus or Paul existed or GTFO.
all right, bro, I don't have it for you.
All
Thanks for
right,
the talk.
well, then GTFO. That was the other option. Just do that. Ridiculous. I'll talk to you. That's perfectly fine. But I'm not going to sit there and just listen to somebody prattle off about how they know things for sure and then it doesn't go anywhere. It's ridiculous. I think that's what that is. James Jones over there on YouTube just hit the nail right on the head. These guys think being a soft water Christian is an atheist. That's what they think. That's what they think. That's actually a really good point. I mean, you weren't an atheist. What you were is this like a Christian who was aware of certain things, like culturally Christian people who like just never really professed to be anything. You weren't really atheist. I mean, yeah, we're all born atheists technically. Like you're an atheist in technicality. You weren't like actually looking into this stuff because now that you're a Christian, you still haven't looked into this stuff. So it looks really pathetic. Anyways. And he's asking to come back up. Dude, you haven't looked into shit. So when you try to tell me about like your past, I don't believe that either. All right. That's why Joel asked, what's your favorite atheist argument? That's probably a pretty good idea. Hopefully Joel's not in here because I may take that idea. And then he's going to be pissed if I take it. I can't say that shit. Yeah. Christian, Dr. Jim is very correct there. Christians who say they were atheists just means they didn't go to church for a minute. That's all Jam with Wes actually meant, is that he just didn't go to church while everybody else did, and he felt like that was him being an atheist. And finally, he just bought into what everybody had been saying for a long time without ever looking at evidence, and now he claims to be a Christian who goes to a house church or something like that. That's all it is. All right. Anti-Christian. Yeah, sure. Sure, buddy. Yeah. So, in other words, you were anti-Christian. In other words, like you saw Christians saying some stuff and you're like, ooh, that sucks. Or, ooh, that's weird. And then you just decided one day to just buy into it without ever looking into the evidence. All right. Bria, if you want, you can come up if you want. I let you up. Jam with West was up here twice. Didn't give any evidence for anything. Just kind of talked out of his ass for a good amount of time. He was up here for 19 minutes and 38 seconds his last time, and the time before that he was up for 13 minutes and 56 seconds. So I've listened to him for over 30 minutes, just kind of prattle off about random bullshit, making a whole bunch of claims that he never substantiated, and he would make a whole bunch of claims or statements that he'd have to retract because he just kind of says things. All right. I think we do have somebody who potentially has an IQ over room temperature that is coming up. What's
Hello?
going on? Hezi?
Yeah,
Hez?
yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Hezi.
Oh, okay. What's going on? What you got?
Well, I've just joined the stream and I was watching it earlier, and you said something about Jesus and Paul not being mentioned in any text outside of Christianity. But do you mean Christian texts, or do you mean the Bible? I was just confused. What do you mean by that?
Who mentioned outside of Christianity?
Jesus and Paul.
I don't make that claim about Jesus. I said that about Paul.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misheard then. Just Paul.
Yeah, because within antiquity, we do have people after the Christians come up with their like mythology and whatnot. We do have non-Christians like Lucian and Samosata talking about Jesus.
Okay. But for Paul then, do you mean that texts about Paul were written outside of the Bible, or written outside of texts written by Christians?
Wait, you
What
want
do you
to
mean
go
by
with
outside of
Paul? Is that
Christianity?
what you're saying?
I don't mind. I personally have better points for Jesus, but I was just confused by what was said earlier.
Well, yeah. Wait, are you trying to say that we have? Are you trying to say that we have like historical evidence for Paul?
Outside of the Bible, I have genuinely no clue. So no, no, I'm not.
Okay.
What makes you say that Jesus never existed?
The fact that the stories don't line up with what we know about the first century.
Okay, what do we
There's
know about the first
anachronisms.
century then?
Yeah, so like for instance, when it talks about rabbis, it talks about rabbis in Matthew 23, and tries to even tell like Jesus tries to tell like the disciples how they dress, where they sit in the synagogues, all that kind of stuff. But the first rabbi is 40 years later in 70. Got him.
I mean, I came into this fully expecting that I was going to lose, but hey ho.
No, not got him like you. There's a fly.
Right.
That's why I just smacked the fly that was flying around. Anyways,
I didn't see that.
You're
sorry.
just here. Yeah, no, you're just here.
I did have one thing in terms of Jesus existing, is the Roman documents that were made. So Romans document everything that happens. Like they document the people they kill. They write down stuff about them. There are historical documents that say that Jesus died on the cross.
Like what?
You want me to find it?
Have at it. Go
All
ahead.
Right. There aren't any surviving documents that were made by the Romans, but with knowledge of the Romans as a civilization, they were extremely meticulous about recording everything.
And we don't have anything from them?
Well, no, we have things. We just don't
What
have.
do we got?
God
damn it, man.
All right, wait. Okay, fine. What about Tacitus then?
What about him?
He was a historian, a Roman historian.
Okay.
He wrote in his final work, Annals, the execution of Jesus. He recorded it.
Oh, okay. So he's looking at some kind of record for it or something?
He wrote a record for it, yeah.
Oh, okay. And what does he call Pontius Pilate?
No, he was called Cornelius Tacitus.
No. What does he call Pontius Pilate in that text?
Pontius Pilate.
Yeah. What position does he say he has?
The Roman procurator.
Bingo. Was Pilate a procurator? Nope. He was a prefect. Judea didn't even have a procurator until the decade after Pilate was dismissed. So he's not looking at any kind of record. Does he say Jesus or does he say Christ?
Okay, yeah, fine. Christus.
Okay. Is that a name or a title?
You could say that.
Is that a name or a
But
title?
it's a title.
Yep, it is. Yeah.
But also,
so do you
Jesus
think
names
that...
himself the Christ.
Cool. Do you think the Romans would have written down Christ or would they have written down Jesus?
Well, no, because that's fair.
Yeah. Pilate didn't even, according to the story, put Christ above his head on the cross. Just said King of the Jews.
Hmm.
So
Okay,
the
man.
Romans
I'm really
wouldn't have
sorry
put
to
down
waste your
Christ.
time. I got nothing.
Well, I'm just saying. So what I'm saying is that the Tacitus line there was most likely added by Christians who referred to Jesus as Christ later on.
But the disposition of Tacitus was that he abhorrently hated Christians.
No, not really. That line itself is a line that talks about or has any potential disdain for Christians that he has. In fact, he says that they're hated for their abominations and called Christians, by the way, with an E, not an I, like Christians, but Christians, which is a word that dates, potentially before the birth of Jesus. But anyways, the point is, he ends up saying that they admitted to burning down Rome, and then they ratted each other out, which is how more arrests were made upon their information that they gave. And then he talks about all the tortures and stuff like that happened to them. And when he talks about that, he ends up saying that he feels like Nero went too far, basically, on these people.
All right. No, that's fair.
So Tacitus, for the most part, if you take out that line that was very clearly added in there, he doesn't necessarily say anything super negative about them, from his own perspective. He just says, yeah, these people were hated. They were blamed for the fire. They admitted to it. Arrests were made. They continued to rat each other out. So more arrests were made. Then they were tortured, and he went too far. So Tacitus, actually is a little sympathetic to it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I, again, didn't really come into this expecting to be able to argue anything, because I'm not an apologet. I don't do apologetics. I not too versed in Roman history or mythology, but I was really interested to see what points you had to make. So thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. Thanks for coming up, man. Alrighty. I think that's a good place to stop. We got really quick from Hardwork8395. Thank you very, very much. $4.99 said Joel should make a song about you stealing the argument from him called Joel Before Jaren. I would play the shit out of that song. Joel Before Jaren. I would absolutely play the shit out of that song. That sounds awesome. But yeah. Thank you to anybody and everybody who stuck around longer than 30 seconds. 35-second gang, rise up. Let's see. Today is Thursday, right? Yeah. So I've got one more live tomorrow. And then, thank you very much for Lewis the Cardinal. I don't think I'm gonna go live on set. No, I'm busy Saturday. Yeah, I'm not even here Saturday. Okay, so I say this because before it gets out and people start like squeaking stuff by and stuff like that, and they're like, yeah, okay. My birthday is Saturday. All right. I said it. I'm not going live. I'm not going live on my birthday. It's not happening. I'm not even going to be here. It doesn't even go here. Anyways, so yeah, I'm not even going to be here. But thank you to anybody and everybody preemptively who says, "Ooh, happy birthday" and stuff like that. So thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and say thank you in advance. I will go live tomorrow, starting about 9:30. Yeah, about 9:30 or so. Yeah, about normal time. And we'll see how it goes there. Yeah. Thank you for all that. Yeah. It's whatever. All right. Anyways, I will see you guys. Happy birthday, 39. God damn. Anyways, I want to say to you, thank you. But don't worry about it. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, Girl Scout. Put me down for some Thin Mints. The Jesus loves you, dude. That's the guy. He's not a. Yeah, that's the. What do they call him? He's not a Sikh. Who is that guy? What is he? He's not a Sikh, and he's not a Muslim. He's the other thing. What's that guy's? What religion? Where is he at? The guy who said Jesus loves you, dude. Druze. That's it. Yeah. It's like the same. It's like basically the same, but not the same. Yeah, it's similar. It's similar. It's ish. Anyways, Druzish. Funny. He doesn't look Druish. Yeah, the Druish princess. Yeah, there we go. All right. I will see you guys later. Peace out, Girl Scout. Put me down for some Thin Mints. See you guys 9:30 tomorrow morning. Oh, thank you for the little guitar there. Thank you.